We are shown a girl with beautiful long red hair. This is our heroine. When she passed by the maids, they immediately began to whisper about how strange it was that a person could change so much in one night. Perhaps she was such a crown that she could do nothing else but sleep in luxury, the maids said. Maybe the rumors are true. The maids talked about a rumor that Mrs. Ayla, the name of the main character, had completely gone crazy. The girl came to the office of the main character, Claude, to say that she wanted to divorce him. When he asked what she said, Ayla replied that they needed to get a divorce because there was no love in their marriage, so there was no point in continuing it. Having not heard an answer, Isla stood up and said that silence was a sign of consent and was about to leave. But Claude abruptly approached her and stopped her. Claude said that she seemed to have misunderstood something. He said that he was not going to let her go. The guy said menacingly that even after death, he would never let her leave him, creepy guy. Then Ayla returned to her chambers and tiredly sat down on the floor, remembering his look, which seemed to scream, make a mistake, die. She sadly asked why he didn't want to get a divorce. Ayla thought that all her actions were simply hopeless, and a week ago she was an ordinary college student who was celebrating the end of the semester with friends and drank a fair amount, and who retreated hit her hard. So she ended up in the body of this girl, Isla Reinhardt, a minor character in a romantic fantasy book. In this book, the girl Isla was doomed to a tragic death, which was not her fault. The girl faced such a tragic death at such a young age, and it was the fault of her hubby, who arranged the betrayal. The daughter of a viscount, Isla was forced to marry Duke Claude Reinhardt to pay off her father's debt. The reason why Claude married Isla is very simple. She will not contradict him. He just needed a bride from a weak family, ask if she was happy in this marriage, 1,000,000 times no. Claude paid off the debt, but left Ayla all alone on their first anniversary. They didn't even have their wedding night, as if he was avoiding Ayla. Ayla's husband Claude seemed to be not only that, but he was an extremely heartless person who gathered troops to fight monsters, but in reality he did it for the rebellion. However, the uprising was completely suppressed. Claude tried to lead the detachment into the palace, but the first prince, the main character of the novel, noticed this in time. He decided to strike back and execute Reinhardt's entire family for treason. Due to Claude's rebellion, Ayla was beheaded. She was never mentioned again in the book, and it turned out that she was Isla Reinhardt. It was her hubby who planned the rebellion. Why should she now die because of him? She remembered how he said that he would not let her go even in death. Ayla thought about how she could divorce him before he committed treason. Ayla didn't understand why Claude suddenly became so attached to her. He hadn't been crazy about Ayla until now. Then the maid, without knocking, said that she was entering her chambers. Ayla thought that this was quite strange, because maids should not do that. The maid entered her chambers and immediately began to scold her, asking why she skipped dinner without telling her. She continued that the Duke asked why his wife skipped a meal. The maid said that she was already exhausted and ordered her to stop behaving like that. The maid brazenly continued to insult her, calling her a failed writer, and said that they didn't like her anyway. Even the maid looks down on her. It is impossible to imagine how Ayla suffered while living here. But now she decided not to tolerate this anymore, and got up and approached her and asked her name. The maid said her name, Jane, and demanded an apology, but this was not the same Ayla who tolerated such antics from impudent maids. Ayla took the vase that was standing next to her and threw it on the floor towards Jane. Fragments and water scattered all over the floor. Then Ayla slyly said that apparently the vase slipped out of her hands by accident, because she was shocked by her blatant behavior, and then asked what she thought. Should the lady apologize to the maid? Ayla decided to use this opportunity to show her superiority and continued to question whether the maid should continue to act rudely when she doesn't even know what she's talking about. She decided that she would not allow such a thing to happen to anyone. Ayla said that the maid should be punished for insulting her mistress. Ayla told her that she was fired because the only thing she could do was remove garbage, and it was unprofitable to keep such a maid. It would be better to improve your reputation than to endure these humiliations. It would be even better if bad rumors spread. The worse her reputation, the faster she and Claude will divorce. Ayla decided to try to get rid of her responsibilities and just have fun. 3 days later, the maids complained that their mistress was strange and wondered why the Duke had married her. They blatantly said that she did nothing yesterday and just lay there, and they said how she could act like she was the mistress of this house. They apparently missed the fact that she really was the mistress of the house. just like Claude. Ayla was lying on her bed, and using the bell, she called the maid. Ayla noticed that she was seeing this maid for the first time and asked her name. The maid bowed and said that she had only been hired since Jane had been fired. Her name was Lena. Ayla said that it might not be for long, but she asked them to take care of her. Lena misunderstood her and began to say that she would never violate her mistress's orders and wanted to serve her as long as possible. Although Ayla meant that she intended to leave here as quickly as possible, she was not going to fire her so soon. Ayla ordered some snacks to be brought here, and she also needed a catalog. She would like to do a couple of purchases. Ayla didn't worry about spending, since it wasn't her money. She cannot be a villain without luxury. She lay on the bed and ate delicious food, and thought that it was time for Claude to come. And just at that moment, the maid came to her and said that the Duke wanted to see her. He needed to tell her something. Ayla was happy because she thought it was time to get a divorce. Ayla thought that Claude had called her to reprimand her for her wastefulness and drive her away, when Lena ran up to her and asked if she was sure that she would go there alone. She, of course, replied that she was sure, and going into Claude's office, she said that she heard that he was looking for her. When Ayla asked why he was looking for her, he replied that he needed to tell her something. Ayla was already waiting for the word divorce when he asked if she was ready for the banquet. The first prince's banquet was in 10 days, and he asked if she was ready to go to the palace with him. This was not discussed in detail, but the story included a banquet on the occasion of the first prince's birthday, and 6 months later, Claude rebelled. And what will they do now with this banquet? It seems he's not going to kick her out before then. She was hoping for a divorce and was upset that she couldn't get it this time, so she asked if he was crazy about her. Ayla said that everyone complains about her wastefulness. A wife who carelessly spends her husband's money. She bought a lot of expensive jewelry without his permission. She wanted to anger him with this. But he only said that she really called it wastefulness, and added that she should write whatever she wanted, and she would have it. It turned out that he didn't care how much she spent because he was rich. Ayla was shocked by his calmness and wondered how much money he had, and she decided to try to anger him in a different way, and said that lately she had not been fulfilling her duties, but Claude replied that he could not do it if he did not want to. Then he said that he was not going to force her to work, but added that she should stop talking nonsense about the divorce. As a result, she still couldn't get a divorce today. She didn't even say the word. And she decided that she had only one way left, to escape. Nothing would work if Claude found out. But without his knowledge, she could escape. Ayla changed her clothes and thought why he didn't want to get a divorce if he never even went into his wife's bedroom, although that's even a plus. She thought that if she sold her clothes and jewelry, she could cover all the expenses of the trip. Afterwards, Ayla tore out the curtains and tied them together, and then tied them to the balcony and hoped that it would support her. Lena said that the guard usually changes at this time, and Ayla decided to use this chance to quickly escape. But before she could reach the ground, the curtain tore and Ayla fell, and when she opened her eyes, she saw that Claude had saved her. Then Ayla asked how long he had been here, and Claude calmly replied that he had been here since the moment she opened the balcony. Well, at least he caught her in his arms when she fell. She could be grateful for that, but she asked why he didn't say anything if he saw everything. Claude replied that he was afraid that she would fall. She did this, thinking that no one could see her, and in such a situation he could not speak. Then Ayla asked him to let her go, but Claude said that he would not let her go until he was sure that she was really okay, and asked what she was even trying to do. She thought that if she told the truth, he would definitely kill her, and so she replied that she wanted to go for a walk. But then she decided that nothing would change, even if she lied and honestly said that she wanted to run away from here because she didn't want to live here anymore. Claude paused for a while and asked if she really hated him that much. Ayla thought why Claude, with a straight face, looked like that. Ayla got confused and said that it's not that she hates him, she just wants a divorce. Ayla wants to avoid a tragic death. Claude said that she could have broken her legs and asked her to stop harming herself, and asked if she really wanted to run away that badly. Ayla responded positively, adding that she would do it as soon as possible. Claude only said that he would take her back to the bedroom. So he did. Putting Ayla on the bed, he was about to leave, but Ayla stopped him, saying that they had not finished their conversation yet. She thanked him for paying off her father's debt, even if it was an arranged marriage and he was not a faithful husband. Ayla continued that he constantly avoids her and prefers war instead. She decided that it would be better to use examples. Like they never slept together, they have separate bedrooms. Besides, before her request for divorce, he didn't even look at her and they only spoke a couple of times. Claude was annoyed and said that she was driving him crazy because it was all a misunderstanding. Isla replied that she really wanted to end this. And again, she asked for a divorce. Claude asked to give her another chance and said that he wanted to fix everything. If she doesn't like a loveless marriage, and if he loves her, then she won't want to get a divorce. Ela didn't expect Claude to start talking about love. He's trying to stop the divorce by talking about love. Maybe this is even a chance. Then she said that the idea sounded interesting and agreed to give him a chance. If he made her fall in love with him, then they would not get divorced. She decided that if she took advantage correctly, she could divorce Claude. Therefore, she set conditions. She stated that he had 1 month for all this to make her fall in love. Ayla said that if he succeeds, she will not divorce him, but if her heart remains unchanged, then he must promise that he will give her a divorce. She thought that even if there was more time, she would never have fallen in love with Claude. Choosing between him and life, she would choose the second, and Claude agreed to such a condition. There were only 5 months left, so she might as well spend one since she definitely wasn't going to fall in love with Claude. Already in the morning, Ayla noticed that the carriages continued to arrive, but it seemed that nothing had been planned today. Perhaps someone had arrived. Then Lena came to her, and Ayla said that she noticed that so many carriages had arrived today and asked if something had happened. Lena replied that these were gifts to her from the Duke. Ayla sat down and Lena began combing her hair, saying that today she would try to improve her image. She heard that they have a huge amount of jewelry and accessories. Lena said that there was a diamond there that belonged to the princess of a state that was defeated 100 years ago. They say there is nothing more valuable in the empire. It's just beyond her imagination. He's trying to buy her love. But this doesn't bother her. Money certainly can't buy love. Isla thought that the Duke was too naive. This is the famous diamond of Princess Shay. Now it is clear why this diamond is so expensive. Lena said that there were still many gifts, but unlike Lena, Ayla was calm and said that she needed to meet with Claude. Then Lena thought that she was going to thank him for the gifts, but Ayla said that she wanted to return the diamond. It did not suit her. Ayla confidently walked into Claude's office and told him that she wanted to discuss something with him. She immediately said that he was being dishonest, and Claude asked what exactly she meant. Claude said that if there was something wrong with the diamond, then he could buy another one. But this only angered Ayla, and she said that she asked to win her heart. Ayla asked if he was trying to buy her love with money. Then Claude asked that if these were his sincere feelings, she would not accept him, even if he said that he wanted to use it to show her his feelings for her. Ayla replied that he did not need to show his feelings in such a way, although it was difficult for her to say no to this shining stone. Hearing this, Claude decided that he would simply throw the diamond out of the window, but Isla stopped him and said that she would accept the gift. Claude gave the diamond and said that he would never dare to buy her heart with money, and gave it, thinking that it would suit her. Isla thought that she shouldn't have made him angry over such a small thing, and as she was about to leave, Claude asked what kind of gifts she liked. She replied that if he was so curious, she would like the gift to have much more feelings. Duke Reinhard is incredibly rich, and his influence exceeds that of the imperial family. But he knows that all these things are meaningless. At 15 years old, gold was useless when his mother died of poisoning. At 16, the influence of having his father killed right in front of him was gone forever. Therefore, he did not understand why he needed all this. Claude thought that he could not even protect his loved ones. Claude sadly thought that everything he loved was already dead. After these incidents, his goals completely changed. In the absence of the opportunity to protect what was dear to him, he chose not to value anything. And since Ayla's family had a debt, they were the same age and Claude had nothing against her family. Therefore, he decided to marry her. He thought that he was not greedy yet. At least Ayla would not leave him. He couldn't believe that she was afraid of him, although he himself kept his distance. What else could be expected? On their wedding day, Ayla was afraid of him. When he asked if she would take his hand, she did not answer. The butler asked if it would be okay if he missed his wedding night, and Claude replied that it would be best for her to rest. And after that, he never saw Ayla. After all, she felt horror when he paid attention to her. He couldn't understand why she suddenly became a completely different person, and remembering how she said she tried to escape, he became upset and said that he didn't want to lose anyone else. Claude thought that it was all his fault, and it's good that now he knows this because he can fix everything. This month, he decided that he would treat her better. Then the butler Henry came into the chambers. He brought tea, saying that he had worked again and missed the food. Claude asked Henry if not everything is the same, if not all people want the same things. He continued to ask if he had ever seen anyone who did not like jewelry and luxury items. Besides this, what kind of gift could demonstrate sincerity? Henry replied that people always want to get another person's heart, but the lady wants to get the Duke's heart. And then Claude said, if she really wants to get his heart, then he always gave his heart to her, only he did it in his own way. Henry, a little worried, said that their relationship was not close, and my lord could sometimes spend time with his wife. Claude asked if he spent time with her. She would understand that he had his heart for her, and Henry suggested that he start touching her a little instead of being rough. But Claude asked if casual touching wouldn't be considered too rude, and Henry told him to start with something simple, like shaking hands. Hearing this, Claude stood up and said that he had a great idea, and thanking for the advice, he decided that he would start training right away. Claude asked Henry to tell Isla that he was going to spend the whole time with her, just the two of them. Henry noted that it was too late and that they could do it tomorrow, but Claude insisted, and then Lena ran to Isla and said that she needed to get ready quickly. Ayla calmly asked what could happen at night, and whether the dress she ordered that week had arrived. But Lena interrupted her by saying that the Duke said that he would come to her room right now. She decided that he wanted to spend the first night with her. Ayla was not happy about this, and even got angry, thinking that he was trying to get her in such a strange way since the money didn't work out. Her imagination had already begun to imagine Claude coming and immediately undressing to show his heart. She imagined him saying that this was the only way to demonstrate his feelings. But then she pulled herself together and told Lena that there was no need to prepare anything, and she would take care of everything herself. Ayla got angry and already began to threaten him in her thoughts that she was not going to leave everything like this, and then Claude came. Claude entered her chambers and said that he came here to spend time with her, despite his schedule. Ayla shouted that he must have just been hungry, but Claude did not understand what she was talking about and said that he had eaten well a long time ago. When Claude said he wanted to give his all today and tried to touch her, she hit her, telling him not to touch her. But it was only she who was in pain, not him. Ayla thought that his body was more like a stone, which is strange because he is always undernourished, and besides, he is constantly working. Claude didn't understand why she was angry and said that he left his job just to see her. Ayla replied that no one would like it if they burst into her bedroom to take care of the first night without taking her feelings into account. At this, Claude himself became embarrassed and asked what she meant by the first night, then added that there had been a total misunderstanding. He said that he had never thought about such a thing and just wanted to show how much he cared about her. Then Ayla asked what he was doing here so late. Claude replied that every moment was precious, and he was trying to show that he was willing to give up everything for her, to prove that no matter how busy he was willing to do anything for her. Then Ayla realized that she really had misunderstood everything and wondered why he expressed his feelings so strangely. Claude said that he only disturbed her again and apologized for disturbing her so late, and was about to leave. But Ayla stopped him, although she herself did not understand why she needed this, because it was beneficial for her that he was doing such a bad job with their agreement. Still, she said that she was planning to go for a walk, and if he wanted, they could go for a walk together. So they did. Isla noticed that because of his long legs he walked too fast, and Claude asked where she wanted to go. Ayla replied that she didn't want to go somewhere, she was just walking, and then Claude suggested walking through the garden, because it's nice to walk there. Ayla liked this idea, and they went into the garden, entering the garden. Ayla saw how beautiful it was. She didn't even know that such a place existed on this estate. Then she looked at Claude and thanked him for bringing her here, and said that it was really nice to walk here. When Claude continued to look at her silently, Ayla asked if he was okay because he didn't look good. Then she touched him and said that he looked like ice that was melting from the hot sun. Ayla thought he looked like he might disappear at any moment. But when she didn't receive an answer, she turned around and said that this was a great place. Ayla didn't expect that Claude liked gardening. Claude replied that this place was completely made by his mother in the novel. Claude's mother was poisoned by someone. This happened a year before the death of his father, who literally went crazy trying to find the traitors, but failed and died at the hands of an assassin. And young Claude, who had lost both his parents, became the new duke, after which he himself tried to find the man who killed his parents. It must have been an incredibly difficult time for Claude, Isla thought, so she apologized for bringing it up, but Claude replied that it was already in the past anyway, and there was no need to apologize. Isla asked if he often comes here. Claude replied that he does not like flowers and only comes here when he thinks about his mother. Claude said that he carefully takes care of this garden since this place was dear to his mother, and then Ayla tore off one flower and gave it to Claude. She said that she understood that he did not like flowers, but still asked him to accept him, because when you see something beautiful, it becomes better. Claude took the flower and said that she was right and added that the flower was beautiful. Ayla thought why he called it beautiful without even looking at it. Then Claude asked if she liked flowers. She replied that she liked them because they were very beautiful. She liked everything beautiful. And then she realized that she had been looking at Claude for too long and thought that she must have been seduced by his handsome face. Even realizing that she was already staring at him, she did not stop, although she understood that it was time to stop. And Claude picked one rose that grew nearby, made a ring out of it, and put it on Isla's hand. Claude remembered Henry telling him that it was important to create relationships through light touches. Then he pulled her towards him and asked her to remember this moment and secretly put another rose in her hair. Isla opened her eyes, and Claude said that she looked even better now. However, when he pulled her towards him, Ayla thought he was going to kiss her. And so Isla said that it was time for them to return. Because she decided that Claude was dangerous, she returned to her place. Ayla got hungry and called Lena to her, who continued to look at her, and then Ayla asked why she was looking at her for so long. Lena became embarrassed and said that it was nothing. The lady was just very beautiful today. Ayla didn't understand why she suddenly began to flatter her so much, although if you think about it, Ayla's face is really cute. And then she said that this body is always beautiful. She herself thought that it was probably too narcissistic. When she pulled her hair back and the flower fell from her hair, then she understood what Lena was talking about. And remembering how she walked with a calm face in front of the maids and became embarrassed. Ayla remembered how Claude acted in the garden and thought it was too romantic. She thought that in any case, she would not see him again this month. And the next day, Ayla still came to Claude's office. All night, she thought about how nice they spent the evening together. And Ayla decided that she needed to find out why he continued to behave differently from the original. Because if the flow of the story was disrupted, her life was in danger. And just as she was about to leave, the door opened and Duke Henry appeared in front of the door and asked what she was doing here. Henry said that he had been working for the Duke since he began fighting and had always respected her, so he asked to be called by his first name. Isla asked if the Duke was working, and Henry replied that he was resting now so she could come in. Then she opened the door and saw that he was in the midst of work, so she said that she was just lost. She decided to leave immediately, but Claude came up to her and stopped her, saying that he was free so she could stay. Claude clarified whether she was looking for him, and if so, why she decided to leave, but Ayla lied again, saying that she was simply lost. And after a short silence, Ayla said that it was better for her to return, but Claude asked her to stay. Ayla looked around and saw that the table was full of books and lists, and then she said that he had a lot of work, and she didn't want to interfere. And when Claude said that she was not bothering him, Ayla replied that then she could come in for a cup of tea. They sat down and Claude began to brew tea. Ayla was very surprised that he was brewing tea so calmly. She noticed that the teapot looked so small in his hands. Ayla remembered how he picked flowers for her in the garden and secretly put one of them in her hair. Claude was unexpectedly kind. Claude noticed how Ayla was looking at him and asked if he was brewing the tea the wrong way, and Ayla replied that he would pour it himself. Then Claude asked if she really thought that he had no manners at all. Ayla said that she didn't think so. She was just glad that she was drinking tea brewed by him. Claude moved the mug towards her. Ayla took it and drank a little. She thought that the tea with calendula was so hot and the aroma was so pleasant. While she was drinking tea, and Claude said that she had changed a lot, before she didn't even want to look him in the eyes. And then he asked what the real her was like. Well, her attitude really changed, compared to Ayla in the novel. It's not surprising that he noticed it. Ayla frowned a little and asked if he didn't like that she had changed so much. But Claude replied that he liked this side even more, to be honest. He wanted her to be like this before. Ayla said that a whole year had already passed, and of course she had changed, especially in such an environment. Claude asked what she was talking about, and Ayla replied that everyone, even the roomers, looked down on her. They did not perceive her as the mistress of the house. Naturally, she had changed. Claude didn't know this and was very angry. He asked if she had really been looked down on all this time. Ayla didn't expect him to be so angry, and Claude asked her why she fired Jane. It turns out he knew about her dismissal. She replied that Jane treated her too arrogantly, but now everything is fine. The new maid treats her well. Claude told her that he would change everything. When she left, Claude continued to grumble that the maids had become so lazy, and how dare they treat his wife like that. Henry's butler came and asked if he had called him, but before Henry could finish speaking, Claude ordered everyone to be fired. Henry was very surprised and asked if he was serious when he said this. Claude replied that he should leave only the necessary minimum, and let him find out who disrespected the mistress, and if he finds new ones, he must train them personally. Claude said that he does not want even one to disrespect the Reinhardts. The next day, early in the morning, it was very noisy, but Ayla didn't seem to care and continued to lie in her bed. Then Lena came to her and asked if she was going to the first prince's birthday banquet, so she should start getting ready. Lena said that she needed to choose an outfit and matching jewelry, but Ayla lazily replied that she could just choose what she thought would suit her. The birthday of the first prince, he was the main male character in this book, the one who will visit the Reinhardt family and cut Isla's throat. So Ayla definitely wasn't looking forward to this guy's birthday, and sadly told Lena that she had a lot of clothes. Any would do. In addition, there is another important problem. The other nobles at the banquet, Ayla's reputation is not the best. Not only were the servants treating Ayla poorly, she didn't understand why they were treating her this way, since she wasn't the type to waste her family's money. If she had been on good terms with Claude, no one would have dared to talk about the Duchess like that. Even the flowers on the road know that they did not have their first night, a girl from a modest family whom even her own husband does not love. She was ideal for such bullying, although no, in fact this is great, because she is no longer the same Ayla. Bite her and she will immediately bite you back. She needs to step over everyone and shine brighter than others. Now no one will dare to look down on her. Ayla hoped that the first prince was an honest man in the novel. He was bright and sociable. Thanks to this, he was easily able to achieve the heroine, Edith Nevelyn, although it is unlikely that she would meet them in person. She walked outside until late. Ayla thought that she needed to go to the store, then go to bed. And when Ayla returned to her chambers, she was surprised the room was strewn with flowers. Ayla approached the beautiful flowers and noticed that they were like new, not dry at all, because there was gold powder on them. The book said that this was a sign of magic. If so, then was every flower in the room really enchanted? Ayla was surprised that he used magic so that they would not wither. This kind of thing is probably very expensive. Ayla looked at the flowers and thought how he could even do such a thing. Claude, who never came to Isla's bedroom, suddenly showed up at her door with a bouquet of flowers. He approached her and handed her a bouquet, saying that she said that she wanted something from her heart, and not just jewelry. Ayla was surprised that he remembered, and Claude said that he remembered her talking about loving flowers, so he thought they would make a wonderful gift. If she knew that everything would turn out this way, she would have remained silent. Claude asked if she didn't like it. Ayla replied that she was grateful, but one flower would have been enough for her. Claude asked what it means. One thing, he would never give this to his wife. Ayla thought how he came up with everything. Apparently, he is doing everything so that she stays with him. Ayla said that she only has permission to go to the garden, but this is too much. Claude walked up to her and took a petal out of her hair. Ayla was very embarrassed. Then there was an awkward silence. Ayla wondered why he didn't leave. He wasn't going to sleep here, and at that moment Claude wished her good night and left. Isla sat down tiredly on her bed, and leaning back against the pillows, said that Claude's behavior was very different from what she saw in the book. Time flew by, and the first prince's birthday arrived. Lena helped Ayla change clothes, rejoicing that the lady was more beautiful than usual. Ayla's dress actually suited her very well. A long blue dress that emphasized her beauty, and it seemed that Ayla was holy. She thanked the maids for their work, and they all replied at once that they were glad to help her. Ayla was surprised that the maids suddenly became nice to her. So she asked all the maids except Lena to leave. Lena was already scared and asked if she had done something wrong. Ayla immediately told her that she was not going to scold her. She had a question for her: why the maid's attitude towards her had changed so dramatically. Lena said that the Duke punished and fired everyone who ignored her, so now there are a minimum number of people in the castle. Ayla realized what the commotion was in the estate earlier. Lena said that she heard that they would soon find new ones, and thanks to Ayla she was not fired. Then Ayla thanked her for telling her everything and got ready to leave. As she walked out into the hallway, Claude appeared in front of her wearing a blue suit that matched Ayla's outfit. Ayla thought that he would be the first to go down. Then Claude extended his hand to accompany her. She took Claude's hand and thought that she could not think that Claude would accompany her. Claude asked why she was looking at him like that, and Isla embarrassedly replied that it suited him very well, and Claude, calling her his beloved, said that it suited her very well too. Isla said that she heard that he fired all the servants, and Isla asked if he did it for her sake. Claude replied that these idiots did not know their place. Isla then said that it was not necessary to go that far, but Claude replied that he would not allow anyone to look down on his wife. Already in karate, Ayla asked what this crown prince was like. Claude asked why he was suddenly asking about another guy. Ayla replied that she was interested because they were going to his birthday. Claude said that he doesn't like that his wife asks about another guy while he's around. Isla was surprised by this reaction. Is he really jealous? Isla told him that she was serious, and Claude replied that he was serious too. This completely confused Ayla. She thought maybe he was pretending to be jealous because she just asked him a simple question. However, Claude eventually replied that the crown prince was not the most pleasant person. An unpleasant person, that's all he can say. Perhaps Claude is against the imperial family. That's why he thinks so about the crown prince. Ayla just said that she understood everything, and Claude asked if she had never met him before. She replied that she saw him only for a second, and then at a distance, and Claude said that she would understand everything when she saw him, what kind of person he was. Claude said with a suspicious grin, but Ayla began to calm herself so that she would not tense up ahead of time. So they reached the imperial castle, and Claude went out first. Ayla thought that she would not like to fall while she was going down. But that's exactly what happened, but Claude caught Ayla in his arms and asked if she was okay. Ayla quickly blushed, so she stood up as best she could and thanked him for picking her up, and said that they should hurry. She said they were already late and quickly entered the castle and were immediately introduced. People immediately began to avoid Ayla, and she decided to simply ignore them, and then His Majesty Emperor Charles came, and the young son of the Empire, His Highness the First Prince J. Rosier, the main character of the book. Ayla noticed that he looked tired, which was strange because in the book he had a fiery character, and the prince constantly teased Claude. But it seems she was mistaken, and His Highness, raising his glass, said that he was grateful to everyone who arrived at the banquet in honor of the prince's birthday. Then he paused for the prince to add his gratitude to his speech, but the prince continued to sit gloomily in silence. Therefore, Carl directly told him to say something. Then the prince stood up and said that no one needed loud and complex speeches, and no one listens to them. Then he took the bottle of wine in his hands and drank it. Ayla was shocked why the protagonist was acting like a complete idiot. Ayla wondered why he was drinking wine off his throat and what the female character would think of him. Noticing her reaction, Claude told Ayla that she now seemed to believe him, while Carl asked to start the banquet. Claude looked at the others with displeasure, thinking that they were trying to get closer to him in order to gain benefits. He still could not get used to it, which is why he hated such events so much. Ayla suggested that Claude talk to someone because many want and expect this, but Claude said that he had no need for it. Claude looked at Ayla and thought that before she had not even looked at him, and if he had known that she had changed so much, he would have come to her long ago. He decided that he wouldn't do something he might regret later, and said that he preferred to spend time with her. Ayla wondered why he was suddenly saying such things, whether he was trying to change everything during this banquet. And while Claude was thinking about what Isla was thinking about, Carl came up to them and greeted the Duke. Claude bowed and said that he was honored to meet the Emperor, and Charles told him that he did not have to be so formal. Then Carl greeted the Duchess and asked how she was doing. Isla also greeted him and said that she felt great. Carl told Claude that he would give him a reward for defeating the Marmel in Estan. Claude replied that it was nothing, and Karl convinced him that it would not be that difficult to obtain official recognition. And then the emperor asked Claude to talk to him alone. Ayla thought that even Claude had a hard time resisting the emperor's order. However, unexpectedly for Ayla, Claude told the emperor that if he wanted to talk, he could do it here. Ayla was worried that this might be considered disrespectful to the emperor and said that he had the honor of speaking with His Majesty, so he should not refuse. She told him not to pay attention to her, and then he left anyway. Ayla breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that she almost died prematurely. And then some girl approached her. She addressed her as a lady, not a duchess. Ayla immediately realized that she would annoy her. Ayla immediately walked away and said that if she had finished, then she would go, and the girl began to shout that she did not dare to say such things to her. This surprised Ayla because she had never said anything like that, and she thought that the girl was probably upset that the always silent Ayla gave an answer. The girl said that they knew each other before she got married, and she talks to her like that. Then Ayla asked who she was. The girl said her name, Mariana, and began shouting that she was probably proud to be a duchess who didn't even have her wedding night. People would laugh if they found out. Ayla calmly called her name and said that now she understood why she couldn't remember her. She said that the girl looked so boring that she didn't deserve a place in her memory. She probably erased her from there. Then some guy came up to them and asked what was happening and why Lady Define was crying. The guy began to shout that of course he was sorry that she didn't have a wedding night, but why be angry with a lady who came only with good intentions? They were both out of their minds. They dared to mention their wedding night in a public place. These bastards dared to swear at her. Then she decided that it was worth answering them, and said how Albert dared to say such a thing in the face of the Dahlia. That is, her. Ayla was starting to get really angry. Everyone looks down on Ayla in these situations. She ordered him to immediately apologize, or Duke Reinhard would punish him. Then the guy bowed and said that he shouldn't have shouted like that. And Ayla replied that she shouldn't have done this either, taking a glass of wine and drinking it on his head. She was pleased with her action. While Albert shouted how she could behave like that, Ayla said that seeing his shameless face, she thought that he deserved it. This happened because Albert yelled at the Duchess of House Reinhardt and also mentioned the wedding night. Suddenly, loud laughter was heard in the crowd. Ayla turned and saw that it was the prince. He walked up to her and clapped for her while he said that it was amazing. Ayla thought that she better get out of this situation before it gets any worse. And the prince asked her if she was good at dousing people, then advised her that she should just hit him in the ear. Ayla apologized for disturbing him, and the prince said that he thought he would die of boredom, but thanks to her, he had a good laugh. The prince said that he thought this person looked cheap and took the bottle and poured it on Albert's head. Although everyone was surprised, the prince calmly told the guy that he was behaving so shamelessly towards the duchess, so he was not going to forgive him everything. Ayla was very surprised, and not to say in a good way, she thought that in the book this guy was very friendly. The crown prince was never interested in Ayla. In the novel he only saw her once, and then he eventually executed her. Only one woman was interesting to him, the main character Edith, and at this time the prince sullenly ordered the guy to disappear because he was spoiling the atmosphere with his appearance. The prince asked if her name was Ayla, and she replied that it was so. Ayla herself did not expect him to remember her name. The guy said that he was wondering who the Iron Wall married, and added that Ayla is quite funny. Iron Wall, he's probably talking about Claude, but in the book these two weren't close. Then the doors opened, and the emperor and Claude returned to the hall. Claude immediately began to look for Ayla among the crowd, and the prince apparently decided to tease him, and coming close to Ayla, said that he hoped for another meeting. Let's go back. When Claude first came out with the emperor, Claude thought all this time that since Ayla was belittled by the servants, then the nobles did it too. He thought that he needed to be with her and wanted to run away to Ayla right now to make sure that no one was hurting her. And then the emperor said that the whole empire had risen thanks to him, and no one could compare with him. But Claude said that everything was thanks to the emperor, not him. And then the emperor told him not to be modest, because he had done so much throughout the entire period of the war, the empire needed such people. Karl added. Suddenly the emperor began to behave strangely, and said that, unfortunately, most people do not do what they need to do. They argue with him and continue to do whatever they want. He talks about aristocrats. At the moment, the empire is divided in two, imperialists and aristocrats. and the emperor hates the very thought of control by powerful nobles. But while the imperialists do nothing, the aristocrats focus on maintaining and increasing their power. So he wants to recruit Claude. Someone who supports neutrality will join the emperor. Then Charles asked why not stand next to him. Claude's hypothesis was confirmed. Claude thanked him for his trust and said that he wished to devote himself entirely to the empire. In fact, he did not want to side with either the imperialists or the aristocrats. Karl began to say that if he thought so, then let him continue to support the entire empire, and suddenly someone ran up to the emperor. It was one of the servants. He began to say that the crown prince had done something, and Claude immediately became worried that this bastard had done something to Isla. The butler said that the prince doused one of the guests with his liquor, and the emperor immediately decided to go to him. Claude found Isla. He approached her. He had already begun to threaten the guy, the prince or not. If he touched his wife, he would not be able to escape his wrath. Ayla herself was annoyed with the prince when he finally left. She thought how the main character could be so nasty, and managed to regret that she had come to this event at all. Only now did she notice how Claude was approaching her. He looked, to put it mildly, frightening, and Ayla directly asked why his gaze was so stern. Suddenly, Ayla felt that he was not the only one looking at her so menacingly, and turning around, she noticed a girl who was looking at her. This girl turned out to be the main character, and of course, if the crown prince was interested in another, she would be jealous. Ayla only became more upset. She thought that if you interested the crown prince, you would get a jealous princess. And then Claude came up to her and extended his hand. Ayla thought that he was a better option than the first prince or the heroine, glaring at her. But it turned out that he was looking at her with the same look as the princess, and Claude said that he had heard that there had been a squabble. Isla replied that she was fine, but Albert and Mariana had suffered a lot of damage to their egos. Claude continued to worry and asked if that guy did anything. Claude meant the first prince. Ayla got scared and covered his mouth so that no one would suddenly hear his words, because that guy was a prince, and such speeches could anger him. Then she quietly replied that nothing happened between her and the prince, and Claude asked why she was with him then. Ayla thought that it bothered him that she was with the first prince. Apparently, he was really jealous. Ayla looked back at the girl, then at Claude, and thought that they had the same look, but Claude couldn't be jealous of her. And she replied that His Highness was just helping her with problems. Claude asked if she had problems with the nobles, and Ayla replied that there was nothing serious. Claude said that he shouldn't have left her here alone, and apologized for not being there in difficult times. Then he said that the ball would end soon and suggested returning home. Ayla was in complete shock that the cold-blooded Claude suddenly apologized to him. A sudden apology, a good reason to be surprised. They finally returned home, and Ayla immediately fell on her bed from fatigue. She still could not get over Claude's strange behavior. The first prince, who suddenly became interested in her, Edith's jealousy, and also Claude with his unexpectedly caring behavior. Ayla wondered why they were acting this way, but she decided to focus. And maybe if she was quiet, all the weirdness would go away, so she fell asleep. In the morning, Henry came to her and gave her a letter. Two not so important, but one quite interesting one. Ayla became curious about this important letter. The letter was written by Albert and Mariana, in which they wrote how wrong they were, and that they sincerely apologize. Ayla said that it was quite strange. Isla asked Henry why they wrote such a letter, and Henry replied that they probably wanted to take her side, because when the Duke found out what happened, he put pressure on those who opposed her. The Duke cut off all ties with Albert's family. Henry told Ayla not to worry. Most of the aristocrats would follow the Duke. No one would dare to work with his family anymore. Ayla asked if this was too much, and Henry said with a smile that they would be completely destroyed. Ayla was surprised that he could say such a thing so calmly, and even with a smile. Well, Ayla thought, they deserve it. Albert looks like the one who fights back. And then she asked what happened to Mariana. Henry replied that the Duke told everything to her family, and the lady would be punished. There would be no more problems with her. Then he asked if she would answer them, but Ayla ordered them to simply be burned, and the other letter turned out to be an invitation to a tea party. An invitation from the princess worth accepting. Ayla thought it was the perfect place to meet the first prince, and asked if she could not go there. Henry honestly answered that it was better to accept the invitation. Isla herself understood. After all, she is an imperial princess. In the empire, a princess can also be crowned. Until a crown prince was appointed, Dorothea could also lay claim to the throne. There are 2 heirs, so no one knows who will take the throne. Everyone is divided between them. Initially, the prince had a brother, but he died due to an accident, after which the empress died, and now only they remained. Ayla was interested in how the empress and the second prince died, because this was not mentioned at all in the book. Ayla thought that if she wanted to live peacefully, she had to go to a tea party. Moving away from strong people was a bad idea. Then she asked if Edith was going there, and Henry replied that she was probably invited too, because she attracted a lot of attention, like the prince's love. This made Ayla happy, because if she met her, she would be able to explain that there was a misunderstanding at the ball. After she wrote a response to the invitation, Ayla went to Claude. He asked what brought her here. Ayla apologized for what happened at the ball, even though they started first. She shouldn't have made such a performance in front of everyone. She thought it would be better to just apologize to him, and then Claude surprised her again by saying that she had done the right thing. Claude said that she could continue to do what she wanted, and the next time someone touched her, she should pour alcohol on them the same way the prince did. He asked if that was all she wanted to say, or if there was something else, and added that she had done nothing wrong, so there was no need for an apology. Ayla told him that the princess had invited her to a tea party. Claude replied that they could go together, which was quite strange because only noblewomen were invited. She imagined what it would be like if Claude did go to tea with her. Then she told Claude that she would go there herself, because only girls were invited there. And sad Claude said that if anyone was rude to her, he should pour tea on them. The hotter the tea, the better. Claude said kindly, and then asked to remember their names. If someone is rude, he will destroy their family. Ayla decided that it would be better to ignore those who were pushing, otherwise he would have even more work. The day of the tea party arrived. Ayla dressed up and embarrassedly asked Lena if she was too dressed up. Lena replied that she looked great in bright clothes. And she added that she had not been to tea parties for a long time, so it was important to attract attention with bright clothes. Ayla got into the carriage, and after some time reached the castle. The other girls saw her and immediately left. Ayla thought that they were used to mocking her, but now they were avoiding her, because they knew that she would fight back. Sitting down at the table, she again noticed the unpleasant look with which Edith was looking at her. Ayla noticed that the dress code was quite strange, because the color of their dresses contrasted too much with each other. When everyone sat down at the table, the princess said that she was glad to see Duchess Reinhardt here, and Ayla thanked her for the invitation. Then one of the girls said that it was the first time she saw her after the banquet. She said that at that time she was so adamant, and mockingly asked if His Highness knew. The princess asked if they had fun at her brother's birthday, and said that she was ashamed that she could not attend because of illness. Another girl specifically brought up the moment when a guy showed disrespect to the Duchess, and she personally punished him, seemingly pouring alcohol on him. The girl continued to look down on her, saying that it was too much for a noblewoman, and she didn't think even commoners would do such a thing. Ayla asked what family she was from, apparently remembered Claude's advice, and the girl replied that she was from the Saphir family, and brazenly said that she apparently did not have the proper education. This made Ayla laugh, and then the girl asked what she was laughing at, and again said that she did not have a proper education. Isla said that apparently the lady wants to glorify her family by insulting the ducal family. Insulting the royal family carries the highest penalty. This is a sin that cannot be forgiven in the Empire. Then the girl shouted that it was too rude. Ayla said that she was not the only one who spilled the alcohol at the banquet, which means from Lady Saphir's words, it follows that the first prince did something so vulgar that commoners would not do. She said that she would bear it if she was insulted, but she never thought that Lady Saphir would dare to insult the first prince, the young son of the Empire. Ayla rearranged everything so that the girl insulted not her, but the prince. Ayla said that Her Highness was also here, so she advised them not to be so headstrong. Ayla decided to show them that she should no longer be joked about like before. The princess said that Lady Saphir was probably just out of her mouth with excitement, and the lady pitifully apologized for her behavior. And then the princess advised her to do better with her words, and asked her to leave their tea party to think about what she had said. Then the princess asked if the Duchess was offended, and Ayla replied that of course not. It was nothing more than one person's rudeness. Ayla asked if the princess was disappointed, and she replied that the Duchess was so sensitive, and suggested that they forget about it and drink tea. The mood has changed greatly. Apparently the others are now afraid that they will also be thrown out of the tea party. But Edith interrupted the silence by asking Isla what kind of relationship they have with the Duke. Ayla began to feel nervous, perhaps because of the unwanted attention from the crown prince at the ball. And then she asked what was wrong with Lady Edith, and the girl replied that she could just call her Edith. Ayla thought that she was probably laughing at her, or perhaps just mocking her if not. It was a relief, after all. Ayla would like not to spoil her relationship with the main character. Edith continued that she always wanted to get to know her better, so she asked and asked the same question again. Apparently, she was just jealous of the prince for Isla. Ayla thought that everyone knew that she had a bad relationship with her husband, but still continued to ask such an obvious thing in front of everyone. She asked in response if there was a reason why Lady Edith was asking this. Isla said that it was not very good to show such interest in other people's relationships. And Edith replied that couples should get along, so you shouldn't covet other men. Her jealousy is too obvious. Then Edith again put on the mask of a kind girl and said that of course she was not talking about the Duchess. She had just seen such girls before. This girl is not like everyone else. Ayla thought that the heroine was not like that in the book. She is not at all like herself. Any story can be described in different ways. A villain can be a hero in his story, and vice versa. Ayla recalled that in the book, she was a passive character who did not talk to strangers, but was beautiful at heart. And the first prince and Edith met for the first time when he helped her in difficult times. Ayla suspected that the book didn't show the characters' full personalities, but the differences were too obvious. Maybe there is a different setting here. Not like in the book, it is logical to think that there is some kind of secret here if this is a story untold in the book. But then Edith feignedly apologized if she was misunderstood, and said that she was really interested in her relationship. Ayla replied that she shouldn't worry about it. And then one girl said that she was notorious for her relationship with the Duke, so it makes sense that she would avoid the issue. Then Isla wanted to answer her, but suddenly Claude appeared behind Isla and asked who dared to say that they had a bad relationship. While that girl was apologizing, Ayla stood up, thinking that he hated crowds of people but came anyway. Claude pulled Isla towards him and told that girl to say it to his face, asking what kind of relationship they had. Then he asked Ayla if she was having fun at the tea party, but he himself answered that, of course, she wasn't having fun, because some people open their mouths without understanding anything. Claude told everyone to stop talking nonsense and that they had the best relationship possible, and added that such words made him angry. The princess finally spoke, saying that they had not seen each other for a long time. Claude apologized for his late appearance. She then asked Claude what brought the Duke to her tea party, and Claude replied that he was his wife's escort. Everyone was surprised that the Iron Duke came here because of her, and that they had heard that their relationship was bad. The princess invited him to sit down, but Claude said that they were already leaving. Walking away from the tea party, Isla shook Claude's hand off her shoulder. She asked why he came. Claude replied that he came to pick her up and asked if someone was rude to her. Isla replied that the lady told the truth. Claude said that if the other ladies behaved the same way, he would take care of them. She just needed to tell the details. Ayla replied that everything had already been arranged, and besides, they weren't lying because they really don't have affection in the relationship. As well as the fact that everything was so good with them, these words upset Claude, who did not expect such an answer. Ayla asked him to stop behaving like this. She appreciates the help, but she is used to such ridicule. And then they heard someone's voice. The prince appeared in front of them. Ayla was already tired of such strange meetings, until the prince said that they had met again. Apparently, it was fate. Ayla thought that this was not fate at all, and that such words scared her, but out loud she only greeted him. The prince asked if she was looking forward to meeting him, and then Claude stepped between them and said that this was his wife, and added that he should stop calling his wife by name. Then the prince said that he did not expect such speeches from the Iron Duke, and asked what if he refused and continued to communicate with her. Claude replied that she was the mistress of the Duchy of Reinhard. She was not the person with whom he could play as he wished. Ayla, watching them, thought that Claude was indeed a potential traitor, because he behaves this way even with the Prince of the Empire. The prince said that he was just having fun. He didn't think about it seriously, but he didn't expect that the Iron Duke would stand like a mountain for his wife. He apologized to Ayla for being rude and asked to be allowed to call him by his first name. and when Ayla immediately refused him, he said that then she could allow it the next time they met. After an unpleasant conversation, our couple got into the carriage, and Claude sullenly said that he did not know that she was so close to the first prince. Ayla replied that she was not, but Claude said that he was glad to meet her again. Ayla replied that she didn't care. Claude looked at her incredulously without answering anything. Ayla wondered if it was really that important to him. Then Ayla asked what was bothering him, and Claude replied that he had said before he was very jealous. Returning home, Ayla jumped onto her bed, thinking that they had spent the rest of the trip in awkward silence so that it was hard for her to breathe. And now it was as if she had come to life again. To think that the familiar could become so terrible, his eyes seemed sincere. Then Lena, who as always was in high spirits, burst into her and asked if she should bring lunch to her room. Ayla sat down on her bed and answered positively. Then Lena said that she would immediately ask for food to be brought to her. But then Henry knocked, and Ayla allowed him to enter the room. Henry said that his lordship was inviting her to a joint dinner. Ayla was surprised that he called her so suddenly and thought that if she refused, he would stare at her again, and told Henry that she agreed. Lena happily said that everything would be fine and advised her to enjoy her lunch. Ayla went down. It was her first time here, and if she had known that it was so beautiful here, she would have gone down earlier. Claude was already there, and when she approached, he pulled out a chair for her, saying that he was honored that she accepted his invitation. He dismissed all the maids, saying that he did it because he wanted to tell her something personally. Ayla said she was surprised that he suddenly called her to dinner, and Claude asked why they didn't eat together more often from now on. Claude asked if she wanted to say those words again, if she would ask why he behaved this way, even though he didn't like it. He said that he didn't do this before because she was afraid of him then, but now she's not afraid of him anymore. Claude added that he would also like to apologize for what happened at the tea party. Ayla was surprised that Claude was wasting his precious time just to apologize. She believed in herself that there was no need to hesitate. She only needed a divorce from him. She just needed to continue not to show much attention to him. And trying to understand Claude only distracts her. Ayla thought that she needed to do this, and said why he was even apologizing. Claude replied that she was right in the palace. Her words were true about the distance between them. He knows that his actions may have led to this. Claude explained that he did not expect that people would dare to belittle her despite the name Reinhardt, and now he understands why she wanted to run away from him so much. He said that he would like to restore their relationship because he wants to get closer to her, not because of a promise. He just wants to get to know her better because she is no longer afraid of him. He does not ask her for something like love. Ayla thought that Claude continued to talk, although his hands were shaking slightly. For the first time, she saw him trying to convey his sincere feelings, like a real person, not like a character in a book. Claude sincerely said that he wanted to get closer to her. That's why Ayla couldn't stay here any longer and stood up and apologized, and said that she would be the first to return to the room. She continued to run further and further, but it seemed that she was not running away from Claude, but from her feelings that could arise if she continued to listen to him. It had been a few days since she had lunch with Claude. Maybe he was busy with work, but she hadn't seen him since that day and was just sitting in her room. Suddenly, they knocked on her door and Ayla allowed her to enter. She probably thought it was Lena and did not expect to see Claude at her door. She was surprised that Claude came to her so early without warning. She stood up and asked that she had not expected such a visit. And then she noticed that he was holding a tray with breakfast. He said that he heard she was having breakfast in the room, so he took it with him. Ayla said that she ordered this to the servant, not her. Claude replied that she should be flattered because he had not yet followed anyone's orders. Claude said confidently. She thought that she was embarrassed because she left without answering, but this visit makes the situation even worse. Claude put breakfast on the table and suggested that she eat it before it got cold, but Ayla continued to feel uneasy. She noticed that her favorite food was on the tray, but it seemed like a lot for breakfast. Ayla started eating and asked if he was going to eat. Ayla said that she thought he had not had breakfast yet, and Claude replied that he usually did without it, and asked him not to worry and to eat. She remembered that he doesn't eat because it breaks his concentration, and yet she offered him something to eat. Claude said that he came here to feed her. But Ayla did not listen to him and brought Claude a piece of meat and asked him to tell Am. Claude thought it was stupid, but opened his mouth and ate it anyway, and said it wasn't that bad. Ayla thought that she seemed to be feeding a wild animal, and again offered him another piece of meat, which he ate. Then she said that now he could eat on his own, and asked why he even brought breakfast with him, and Claude reminded her that he wanted to get closer to her. Claude asked if she had time today. Ayla, a little embarrassed, answered why he was asking. He said that he heard the spring festival was opening, and asked if she wanted to go there with him. Ayla couldn't even think that Claude would offer her a date in such a crowded place. But she still agreed, and then Claude said that he would start getting ready and would come pick her up a little later. Lena happily asked if it was true that the Duke invited her to the festival, and Ayla replied that it was true. It seems that Lena was happier than Ayla, and then Ayla asked why she was so happy, and Lena replied that the festival is famous for the fact that many couples come there. Ayla didn't know about this, and Lena said that it would be full of gorgeous flowers, the place was perfect for a date, and besides, she heard that if you give flowers to your loved one, you will be together. But the Duke invited her to go to the festival, which means he loves her, and probably will definitely give her flowers. Ayla told Lena a little irritably that her imagination was too wild. Lena apologized and asked if it was their first time going to the festival together. She said that she knew that the Duke did not like places full of people, and he had never gone there before. And she added that the Duke had been in the room for several days, perhaps preparing for this exit, trying to do all the work in advance. Ayla thought he was avoiding her because he left like that, but Claude was always busy in the book. Then he really freed up time for their date, and Lena finally finished styling her hair. Ayla thanked her for her work. When Ayla came out in the corridor, Claude was already waiting for her, and again their outfits were similar. She asked how long he had been waiting. Claude replied that not long. Taking her hand, they went to the festival. The place really was gorgeous. Ayla noticed the decorations and took Claude by the hand and dragged him there, saying that she wanted to take a closer look at the decorations. Ayla noticed that Claude was silent and turned around to see Claude blushing. Claude said it hurt his heart that she was using him like that, and said she could have told him right away if she wanted to join hands. Ayla at first began to object to him that she did not want this at all, but then Claude suggested taking a walk and offered her his hand, and this time she took it. They approached the counter, and Ayla, who liked the jewelry, was happy, and Claude calmly said that if she liked it, he would buy anything. Ayla replied that she only wanted to look and asked him not to be so extravagant, because others should also buy, there is no need to buy everything. They walked for a while, and Ayla said that she thought he didn't like festivals, and that he had never been to them. Claude replied that he didn't like them before, but now he loved them. Isla asked why he changed his mind so suddenly, and Claude replied because she liked them. That's why he fell in love with them. Claude said that he wanted to show her one place, and they climbed higher, where there was an excellent view. It began to get colder, and Claude took off his jacket and put it on Ayla. Then he walked away and only said that he would be back soon. Ayla was left alone with this beautiful view. Suddenly fireworks thundered and the night lit up. And then Ayla thought that she would like Claude to be next to her now and see this beauty. Then Claude appeared with a bouquet of flowers, saying that he was leaving in order to buy her flowers. Claude said that he personally wanted to give it to her. Ayla asked if he knew what it meant to give flowers at the spring festival. And then Claude approached her and asked her to forget about his thoughts and his feelings because she was much more important and she could ignore him. In the end, Ayla still accepted Claude's gift. It seems the ice between them slowly melted. Returning home, Ayla continued to look thoughtfully at the flowers, hoping that they would simply dry out and all the petals would fall off, so that the unknown emotions would also dry up and disintegrate. She thought that the easiest plan was divorce, but now she is overcome by doubts. For some reason, the atmosphere around Claude changed after the festival, also with the attention of the servants, even with the ever-bright Lena. It was clear from Lena that she was crying, and Ayla asked if everything was okay, and of course Lena lied that everything was fine. Ayla said that she could trust her, and Lena replied that the beast appeared in Efferton. They often appear at this time, but never there. Effectively close to the Duke's territories, and many people live there, and as it turned out, Lena's family also suffered. Ayla stood up and hugged Lena and said that everything would be fine and she was sure of it. She asked if the damage was serious. Lena replied that they tried to hold it off as best they could, but the people there are weak, and only his lordship could not win. Monsters raised on evil mana are strong and resilient, which makes them difficult to kill if the hunter is weak. They are a seductive problem, especially their recovery. Their recovery speed is insane. They regenerate even if they are almost dead. They die only with one strong blow. Undoubtedly, only Claude can do this. The situation in Efferton must be very serious. It is difficult to fight against regenerating beasts. The Crown Prince seemed to kill them easily in the book. She began to remember that it was connected with Efferton. Suddenly, she remembered something and told Lena not to worry, and that she would take care of everything. Henry told Claude that mana from there belongs to Drake. Several individuals appeared in the northern forest of Efferton a week ago and settled there. Drake is the name of the monster. Claude said that Efferton should not have been on their way. It was strange that they ended up there. Henry said that fortunately, the doctors and rescuers worked together quickly, so the damage was not so severe. But as long as their strength lasted, Claude wondered why the mid-level Drake was behaving this way. And then Claude ordered all the knights to be prepared, and he was going to immediately go to the city. Isla came to Claude, and he said that before he left, he wanted to tell her something. He thought he would be gone for a while. But this will not mean that he is going to break his promise and will return soon. Ayla thought that he would ask for more time because he was leaving, because he would not know exactly when he would return. And then Ayla said that she also wanted to tell him. She also wanted to go to the city with him. Claude was very surprised and immediately said that if she was thinking about traveling with him, then she should stop it. He said that although he might not make it to the end of the promise, the trip had already been decided, but Ayla thought that the information she had was worth this situation, so she had to go. All problems will be solved if she finds a magic sword that kills monsters in one fell swoop. Noah of Efferton is a legendary blacksmith, a name that seemed familiar to her because that was where the Crown Prince and Noah met. After their meeting, Noah became a legendary blacksmith. He is more of an inventor than a blacksmith, trying to create something new, not a custom item. Items may be stronger than existing ones, but most of them are, which is why he was nicknamed accordingly. But he had actually created a new weapon, a sword capable of killing monsters with a single swing, and the first to notice its value was the prince who ran away in search of evidence of Claude's rebellion. It's better to get it yourself than to give it to him, and even better to find Lena's family. Ayla said that she would definitely not disturb him and would only avoid getting hurt in safe areas. Claude said that if she wanted something, she could tell him and get it right away. He said that she could solve everything with one word and asked why she needed to go to Etherton at all, and Ayla again promised that she would not interfere with him. Claude said irritably that it was dangerous there. They said that they were blocking the animals as best they could, but you could never be sure, because the barrier could be broken, and the whole city could be digested into ruins. Ayla said that she would be in the city and not on the battlefield, and if the Duchess appeared there in person, morale would rise. But Claude again replied that he refused and asked to stay on the estate, and in the evening, when Claude was reading a book in his chambers, Ayla came to him again. Ayla said that they didn't finish the conversation. He just left, and then she never saw him. She sat down on the floor and said that she really needed to get to Efferton at any cost, and would not retreat a step until he answered. For the sake of Claude, Lena, and everyone else, she must get there. Besides, he doesn't like being disturbed before bed, because then he will be tired. Claude said that the decision would not change even if he cried. What kind of husband would allow his wife to go to such a dangerous place, and asked her to go to bed? Ayla said that if he doesn't like it, just let him say that they can go there together, but Claude replied that this would not happen and went to bed. An hour later, Ayla continued to sit on the cold floor and was already angry that Claude was so stubborn. She asked if he was really sleeping, and how anyone could sleep in such a situation. Ayla herself began to fall asleep, but she decided that she could not retreat. Claude wondered why she suddenly became quiet and decided to take a look, and turned around to see that Ayla was already sleeping. He got up from the bed and approached her and said that this woman was truly special. Then he picked her up and laid her on the bed, looking at her and saying how he could win. Morning came and Ayla woke up on the bed, and she was very surprised by this and got up and saw Claude. It seems they switched places. Claude spent the whole night on the cold floor and asked if she slept well. Claude asked her to go to his room. He needed to wash his face. Ayla apologized and said that they could talk later. But then Claude surprised her by saying that if she promised not to leave the guard, he would allow her to go with him. Ayla was very happy about this and began to thank him and promised that she would be safe. And after a while they reached the city. Two knights appeared in front of Isla, Janice and Rosen. They will accompany her during her stay in the city. Ayla also introduced herself and said that she was looking forward to their work together. Rosen very energetically said that they would help her. Claude said that they are obliged to protect Isla at all costs. Now this is their main task. Then he approached Ayla and asked her not to do anything dangerous. He said that he could not imagine what he would do if she got hurt. Ayla promised him this. She herself thought that she didn't want to get hurt because she hates pain. She was glad that they were able to get there without incident, although the ride was rather unusual. Claude said that his skills are good, so there is no need to worry. Ayla glanced at the guards, wondering if it was right to appoint such high-level knights just to protect her. All the residents were very happy when they saw Claude and said that now they were saved. It seems people like Claude. Ayla also thought that she didn't expect that people liked Claude so much, and when she came out, people also began to greet her happily. Claude turned to Isla and said that he would go take a look at the problem and asked her not to do anything dangerous to her and that he would return soon. Rosen asked where the lady wanted to go and said that the Duke suggested that they find separate housing for her and they could do it right now. But Ayla replied that she wanted to go to the blacksmith. Noah is a famous blacksmith. If he takes a walk, he will definitely find someone who knows about him. Ayla asked if they knew where there were blacksmiths nearby. Rosen said that he often comes here and could lead her to them. Rosen was very sociable. He said that the local blacksmiths were excellent. He himself ordered his sword from them. When they arrived, the blacksmith and his subordinate were very surprised and asked what the Duchess was doing here. Ayla thanked them for their hard work. The blacksmith said that all they could do was make weapons for battle, and they would try to provide weapons for the knights. The blacksmith said that he was keeping her too long and asked what the lady was looking for. And Ayla replied that she was looking for a blacksmith named Noah. For some reason, this surprised the blacksmith, and he said that Noah was a dummy, and suggested that, with all due respect, she look for another blacksmith. And if she doesn't like their assortment, he can show another blacksmith closer. Ayla thought that it seemed like Noah was being treated poorly so far, but she decided to find him anyway. Janice stepped forward and ordered that anyone who knows Noah's whereabouts be told, and he was told the street where Noah works. Hearing the address, Ayla happily thanked the workers and told the knights to go there, to the legendary blacksmith. When they came to that street, they noticed that the forge was in poor condition, and Rosen asked if she was sure that this was where she wanted to go. Ayla confidently walked into the forge and saw Noah, who was surprised that someone had come to him. Janice ordered to show respect to Duchess Reinhard. Isla approached Noah and said that she had an order. Ayla asked to make a magic sword for her, but for some reason, Noah was very shy and said that he couldn't do it. Ayla asked why he didn't want to make it, and Noah replied that he didn't know how to make it. He thought that he couldn't make a magic sword. He hadn't made such a sword for a long time and was afraid that he had lost his skills. Noah said that he has no idea how to do magical things, and not only he, but other blacksmiths also do not know. However, Ayla said that everything was fine, because she herself knew how to make such a sword. And Noah asked if she herself knew everything perfectly well, why did she come to him? Because he is not the only blacksmith in the city. Ayla asked if he didn't want to make a weapon that others couldn't make, so rare that his name would go down in history. And she promised to help him with this, and added that his sensitivity to magic is the best. Approaching Noah, Ayla whispered that if he combines the mana crystal with an ordinary sword, he can make a magic sword. The recipe for creating a legendary sword is simple. You just need to combine the mana crystal and the sword. You have to be very careful with crystals. Even sorcerers often break them when they try to use them. That's why they have such a high price. No one can deal with such an item without destroying it, and only Noah is capable of this. He is very sensitive to magic, the only one who can connect the sword with the mana crystal. The book said that if Noah had access to the mana crystal, he would become the strongest magician. Unfortunately, he is simply unable to hold mana in his body and cannot use it himself. But he has the ability to place a crystal in a sword. Thanks to working with his grandfather as a child, he learned blacksmithing. Noah knows the formula for solving a problem and how to apply it. Constantly testing himself, he eventually succeeded in creating the magic sword in the book, and after some time it was taken by the prince. The first prince, who suspected Claude of treason, hung Noah in Etherton, claiming that he could create magic swords while he was looking for evidence. The Crown Prince was the only one who believed in his own draped magic sword and showed incredible results, although the power depends on the skills of the one who uses it. If he can use mana through the integrated crystal to create an aura, that's why she needs this sword compared to other weapons. Wounds cannot be restored with it. The Crown Prince, who lured the creator of magic swords to his side, will seriously strengthen his position. The presence of this sword in the first prince greatly influenced the death of Claude. Although he also has a good weapon, it cannot compare with a magical creation. And now history can be changed. The first one who showed attention to Noah was Ayla, not the prince. Maybe this story will become one where the main character loses. She feels a little sorry for the prince, but he uses the sword to destroy the Reinhardts. And as a member of this family, she cannot allow this. Now Noah is hers. She extended her hand and asked if they had agreed. Noah agreed and asked if she would punish him if he failed. Ayla said that she would be to blame for giving an impossible order. Ayla asked him to try and she would give everything he needed. But of course, he would definitely succeed. Noah quickly ran inside and ran back out and brought the drawings with him and immediately began drawing. Then he said that he needed an expensive crystal, and Ayla said that she promised to help him and could bring all the mana crystals that she could find in the city. In any case, Ayla asked if it would be possible to combine the mana crystal with an already completed item. Noah, after thinking, said that he didn't know this for sure, but he had an unfinished sword, and with her permission, he would turn it into a magical one. He added that it seemed to him that he was not doing well, so he had not touched swords for a long time, and after meeting her, this feeling disappeared. Ayla said that she would send him crystals if he needed anything else. Let him ask, and he could hire people to work with her money if necessary. She said that she would pay for everything, and if she could complete the sword, she would give him twice as much as today. Ayla then asked if he knew about the current situation, so she wanted him to make the sword as quickly as possible, and Noah promised to give it his all. Then Ayla and the knights came out, and Rosen asked what she was planning to do. Ayla replied that in order to succeed, she would need better weapons. Otherwise, nothing would change. Janice told Rosen to stop talking nonsense and reminded him that their job was to protect the mistress, not to contradict her. Ayla laughed and said that they should go buy mana crystals from the largest store and send them to Noah. After a hard day, Isla went to her chambers and sat on the bed, thinking that she felt somehow lonely without Claude. He was probably already defending the border. She kept thinking about Claude, how he was probably busy and she hoped he wouldn't get hurt, and admitted that she was worried. Suddenly it dawned on her what she had just said, and she stopped herself. But a second later she began to worry about Claude again. Ayla hoped that he would not return wounded, and again she stopped herself, wondering what was happening to her. She seems to be starting to fall in love with him. 3 days later, she came to Noah, who was happy to see her. Noah happily started shouting that how did she know how to create a magic sword? This is the achievement of the century. No one even thought about it. Ayla said that it's a secret. In any case, it seems that the work is in full swing. Since Noah has already called Ayla, she asked him to bring it, which he already did, and Noah showed her the sword, and said if she was asking how far along it was. Noah laughed and then calmed down and said that this magic sword was completely ready. Ayla raised the sword, and Noah said that the sword was ready, a masterpiece that could not be recreated again. Seeing the sword, Ayla said that it was magnificent. Noah replied that he himself could not believe that he could make such a sword, and Ayla said that Noah was incredible. Noah was surprised and asked if she was talking about him. Ayla replied that it was about him. She called him the greatest blacksmith who created the legendary magic sword. Ayla said that she would help him, give him as much money as he needed, and now the decision was up to Noah. Ayla asked if he was ready to work for the Reinhardt family. Changing his fate will change history, so this opportunity could not be missed. Whoever came first got his slippers. Noah, of course, agreed to work for her family, and at this time Claude continued to fight on the border, protecting all the inhabitants of the city. The man was impressed that Claude cut the monster with ease without even leaving a scratch. Then he told Claude that he was great, and he couldn't help but admire him, and Claude calmly said that there were too many monsters. Claude continued that the number of monsters is huge, but no one can understand where they come from. He thought that this did not make sense at all. Then he said that he saw only 2 reasons. Either the Knights of Etherton are so mediocre that they do not see where so many Poles are coming from. or they move so secretly that even they and the scouts of the forest cannot detect them, and Claude ordered everyone to go down. He believed that there was no point in prolonging the battle. And then Rosen approached him. Claude immediately asked what he was doing here, and said that he had definitely given him orders to guard Ayla, and Rosen said that the lady was urgently asking to meet with him. Rosen said that nothing could happen to her, because he and Janice guard the mistress like an iron wall. Claude replied that it would be better if it were true, because if even one hair fell from her head, she would beg him to kill herself. Then Claude asked where Ayla was now. Rosen replied that he was waiting for him in the room, and asked if the Duke himself was injured. Claude shrugged it off with a few words, saying only that he had received a couple of scratches, and then met Ayla in the room. Ayla thanked him for coming immediately, and apologized for calling him so suddenly. She noticed that Claude looked exhausted, although he was trying to hide it. She said that she had something for him. Claude was surprised by this, and Ayla handed over a magic sword. Claude took the magic sword in his hands, and thought that he was wondering what she would give him, but he did not expect this. So he told Ayla that he did not expect that her first gift to him would be a sword. Then he thanked her. His smile amazed Ayla on the spot. Claude continued to hold the sword and said that the sword was wonderful. Taking a closer look at the sword, he saw a crystal inside the sword and asked if it was a mana crystal. He wondered how she was able to place it there, and Ayla said that it was a magical sword. Claude had only heard legends about such swords. Ayla advised him to put his energy into it. Claude did so, and the sword glowed blue. It turns out that the size and duration of the glow of the aura depends on the strength of the user. She again became convinced that Claude was strong. Then Ayla said that now he can easily hit monsters with her help. In addition, they will not be able to regenerate wounds caused by the aura. Claude asked how she knew all this. She lied and said that she had read it in an old book when she lived with the Count. While Ayla said that she went here to give it to Claude, and if he uses this sword, he will be able to deal with monsters more easily. Ayla didn't finish speaking when she noticed blood on his shirt coming closer. She asked if it was his blood. Claude was about to say that he was completely fine when he fell to the floor, losing consciousness. Ayla screamed at him to wake up, and after some time Claude opened his eyes. She helped him sit on the bed, and Claude said that he had nothing serious. He just hurried to her, so they bandaged him badly, but everything was fine. Claude asked if she was really scared for him. Ayla thought it was obvious, and Claude asked if she was angry with him. Ayla thought he was so worried about her that he neglected his wounds, and of course she was furious. Then she apologized and got down to business. She helped him bandage his wounds, and Claude embarrassedly said that now everything was fine and he could stop. But Ayla replied that he had cuts all over his body, and if not carefully treated, they would fester, and asked if he was trying to make her a widow who had lost her husband in the war. Claude stopped her hand and asked her not to look at him. Ayla thought he was shy, but Claude noticed how her hands were shaking and asked her to calm down. He said that she was frightened just by the sight of them and suggested that she call a doctor who would calmly treat him. Ayla, barely holding back tears, said that she was afraid because he was hurt and not because of the wounds themselves. She said that she was worried about him. She asked that he said that he would deal with the monsters, so why not take care of his body? Claude replied that such scratches would not affect his abilities in any way, and he was already used to it, so it was not a problem. She wondered if he really thought that this was normal, because he was used to this, after all. He was bleeding because the skin was torn. Claude took her hand and said that only Ayla worries about such scratches. Just a couple of days ago, Ayla was telling herself that it was just a book, thinking only about getting out of here and avoiding death. She believed that she was the only one alive in this world, but Claude, who was just a character from a book for her, was bleeding to death before her eyes. She can see him and even touch him. She can understand when he is in pain. She realized that she was too arrogant. Ayla told Claude to listen carefully and said that a wound is a wound, and let him not hide them. She asked him to show all his wounds. No one in this world will feel good after something like this. If you continue to say this, people will actually believe that he is fine. Then he will even convince himself of this, and when things get really bad, he will force himself to think that everything is fine. She said that she was afraid that he would become like this and asked him to promise to be tired and feel pain was normal, so she asked him about it. Claude agreed and promised to take better care of himself. Then Ayla wet a rag and cleaned his wounds. While Claude was feeling awkward, Someone was worried about him, and it was unusual for him, and he didn't know how to react. He always believed that the world was divided into two, those who needed to be taken care of and those who needed to be crushed. Claude was obliged to fulfill the expectations of people who looked to him for protection, and the fact that there was someone who cared about him was strange to him. So he asked her to stop and got up and got dressed and thanked her for the gift and said that he would definitely use it. And he added that it was time for him to go. He would quickly deal with the monsters, thanks to Ayla, and asked him to wait for her a little. Ayla agreed and ordered him to return to her without further wounds, and reminded him of the promise he had made a little earlier. From that moment on, Claude was constantly busy with monsters trying to break through the defense. Giving up the sword, she couldn't even catch a glimpse of him now. At this rate, it would take him a month to get rid of everyone. And if the promised month goes like this, Isla said that she was thinking of just getting a divorce. All she needs to do is bring the divorce papers with Claude's seal, and it will be over. But for some reason, her heart was heavy. Ayla screamed that this was a nightmare, because it turned out the way she wanted, but it still didn't make her feel better. Then she thought that she probably felt this way, because the situation here had not yet been settled. Perhaps she was worried about what Claude and Lena's family were facing. So she got dressed and came to the blacksmith's and asked how their work was going. The blacksmith asked if she was sure that Noah had made that same sword. With Noah's help, it would take a very long time to establish mass production of magic swords if he worked alone. It would take a very long time, so she couldn't help but think about other masters. They make the base, and at the end, Noah pours a mana crystal into it. Ayla couldn't believe that so many swords had already been made. It looks like buying a whole forge is paid off. She called Noah over and asked if those swords were ready. Noah gave a positive answer, and Ayla told Janice to take one. Time to once again test the power of Noah's magical sword, but this time in front of everyone. Ayla advised him to pour his energy into the sword, entrusting his power to the weapon, and the sword glowed purple. Janice said he wanted to try something and asked permission, and in one fell swoop he cut the shield in two. Janice and Ayla were pleased with the result, but the same cannot be said about the blacksmith. Ayla thought that if the other soldiers did the same, there would be no monsters left in a moment. She said that she knew that everyone was working hard, but unfortunately, she could not offer rest yet. The man said that their results were incredible. He could not believe that now even ordinary knights could kill monsters. Claude asked what their losses were, and the knight answered, "Only a couple wounded and no dead. All thanks to the swords that Lady Ayla gave, it would have been impossible to kill them without the aura." Claude intended to live up to her hopes and destroy all the monsters who decided to settle here. One by one, and after 3 days of fighting, they finally destroyed all the monsters. But Claude immediately headed somewhere. He thought that Ayla would definitely be shocked if she saw him in this state, so Claude first decided to get himself in order. Claude thought that tomorrow was the last day of the promise. He changed clothes and ordered the carriage to be prepared. And Ayla, in her room, thought that 1 month was not enough from the very beginning. And now she would finally be able to divorce Claude. A peaceful and safe life, where her life is not in danger, to be freed from the fate destined for her. And Claude, he will most likely die. Just like in the book, he will die at the hands of the Crown Prince, not knowing that the future has already been decided and that there is already a main character in this world. With his sights set on the throne, he would probably die when his plans failed, without even the slightest chance of success. His role is simple: to elevate the first prince after killing the traitor. That is how he will become the crown prince. In this world where everything is already written down, the death of a character is just a step on the hero's path. He must die for the main plot to move forward. Ayla was angry at this injustice. The Claude she notices sacrificed himself to protect people. He is the one who doesn't care about his wounds until people are safe. Ayla remembered all their moments together, in which Claude always cared about her and her feelings. A living person, and not a character whose only role was to be a stepping stone on the hero's path, Ayla thought that he shouldn't die like that. She began to think if she could somehow help him, but immediately thought that she had been waiting for this day to survive, and she could not risk her life. While Ayla was struggling with her own thoughts, they knocked on her door and said that the Duke had arrived. Then Claude came to see her. She was wondering how she could even look him in the face. Ayla noticed that he was not injured and then greeted him. Claude approached her and touched her hair and said that he missed her so much. He said that the battle is over. They destroyed all the monsters, and the remaining young animals are exterminated, the city is safe, and all thanks to Ayla. Ayla thought that he didn't know that their promise ended tomorrow, so she decided to remind him about their monthly promise. Claude replied that he thought about it every day, so he remembers everything, because for him it is more important than anything else. And he added that he still had 2 days. Isla was surprised that Claude had not yet given up. Claude said that he could not figure out how to immediately change her feelings, although he tried. But then he realized that there is only one way to express his true emotions, no matter how long it takes. Until the very end, he will continue to try. Ayla asked what he was planning now and said that they didn't have much time left, so he should think carefully, and Claude suggested going to the barrier. There, all the knights fought with monsters. Claude gave her his hand and asked if she was ready. Ayla took his hand and replied that she was ready. In the carriage, Claude said that the knights were still at the barrier, so she had nothing to worry about. Ayla replied that she had it, so she was not afraid of anything. Hearing her words, Claude became very embarrassed and turned away. Thanking her for her trust, he said that he wanted to show her the peaceful landscape behind the barrier that they had returned thanks to her. If it weren't for her, the battles would have continued and many lives would have been saved. The knights at the barrier wanted to thank her. Ayla was surprised that he missed her, despite the fact that they would soon be divorced, and told him that it was an honor for her to help the knights. And thinking about Claude, she felt bad for a second. Claude asked if she was hurting somewhere. Then he said that they would soon get out of the carriage and asked her to hold on. He thought that the sun was already setting and there was no need to think too much about it. He told himself that he had to provide everything to her, her happiness, her freedom. He couldn't ignore them. He decided to try not to regret anything, even if she left. They reached the barrier and came to the edge. Claude said that it was calm here now and he wanted to show this place to her. Claude said that recently there were monsters roaming around here, but thanks to Ayla, he was able to quickly deal with them. He then told her that if she stayed with him, he would give his all for her, and he will always be sincere with her. Then he took something out of his pocket, saying that he had something for her. He took out the box, and opening it, Ayla saw a beautiful ring. She thought that she could not accept this gift. Claude said that he would love her no matter what she chose, so he wanted to give her a ring on that day. But even if she left, he spoiled her to take the gift so that when she looked at him in the future, she would remember him. Claude asked if he was too selfish, but he himself answered that he could not do otherwise, because he wanted to keep her in his heart. Quite strange, but he wants to do a lot for her, although he himself does not fully understand this, and asked if she would accept him. Ayla thought that he was asking for it with such a look, and of course she could not refuse him, and she offered her hand, and Claude put on the ring. She thought that even though he was asking her to remember him at least once, although she herself understood that she would constantly think about him, and then hearing a whisper, she turned around and all the knights surrounded her and thanked her for her help. When they got a little closer, Claude immediately told them not to come so close. The knights apologized and thanked Ayla again and left. Ayla told Claude that he shouldn't have driven them away. Claude replied that he thought he wanted her to look at him, and apparently embarrassed, he told her to look at the sky. The sun had already set and bright stars were shining in the sky. Ayla rejoiced at so many stars and told Claude that she would always remember this moment. Claude replied that he would not forget her either. The next day, finally the last day of Claude's promise, Ayla approached her and Claude said that she knew what she wanted to say. The contract began at the estate, and today he would like to finish it here and asked if she would allow him to do so. Then he asked her to wait a little. He would go away to check the drake's nest. It wouldn't take much time. They reported to him. They found something there, and he needed to check everything. Ayla thought that if he returned to her again, it would be more difficult for her, and everything might drag on. And so Ayla asked if she could go with him and promised that she would be fine. Claude thought that this was the last chance to be with her longer. So he agreed, because when they returned to the estate they would have to hang it, and these would be his last moments with Ayla. In karate, Claude made sure that Ayla was okay, and only then they went out and reached the monster's nest. After lighting the torches and going inside the nest, Ayla sees for the first time what the place where the monsters live looks like. She did not understand what they wanted to do here. Claude asked the knight if he was talking about this. The knight replied that he had discovered suspicious traces. Suddenly patterns appeared on the ground, and Ayla saw golden pollen in the novel. Golden pollen signifies a magical trail. And in that case, it was all magic. Ayla wondered which sorcerer had engraved something like that and for what purpose. But no sorcerer could do such a thing surrounded by dozens of monsters. Therefore, they were engraved before the monster nest appeared here. Claude said that this was a summoning circle. With their help, the monsters were summoned. Ayla asked in surprise how he knew this, because he is not a wizard. He replied that but on the battlefield, he happened to fight side by side with magicians. They called upon their pets to attack their enemies. The shape of the magic circle is illogical with these. Ayla was only more surprised that Claude, having seen such intricate magic circles only a couple of times, was able to remember everything in such detail. Claude said that he would have to send a wizard here as soon as they returned back, and he would need to carefully check all the wizards on his land. He decided that he would make the culprit crawl on his knees and beg for mercy. He would definitely find out who this bastard was. Ayla wondered how this could even happen, since nothing was said about it in the novel. She wondered why events that had absolutely no connection with the novel kept happening, like a monster attacked her. But Claude managed to protect her. He then took his sword and killed the monster, saying that everything was fine now. Ayla began to cry when she noticed that it was bleeding non-stop. But Claude himself was angry that he was almost late, and he thought that Ayla was not hurt, and this was the main thing before losing consciousness. He woke up already on the bed, and immediately told Ayla that she was probably scared, so she should rest, and all the doctors said that he was fine and she didn't have to worry. But Ayla was worried, because of her, Claude almost said goodbye to his life, and coming closer, she said that she could do something for him. But Claude said that everything was fine and asked her to rest. Claude asked why she blamed herself for what happened, and said that it was the fault of the useless bastards who failed to cope with the monster's cub. He said that he should definitely take disciplinary action against the knights who failed in their duties. Ayla thanked him for saving her. Claude replied that he was glad that she was safe and sound, because he would not have known what to do if she had been hurt. She sat down to him and thought that she was now indebted to him. He saved her. Besides, she did not want to let him die like that and must also save his life. Will she be able to live, pretending that she didn't know anything about it? She told him that she had made up her mind. Ayla thought she had an epiphany when she saw Claude bleeding. Ayla said that she would stay by his side. She was sure that she would not be able to calmly watch Claude die. And she continued that she could not tell him how long she would be with him in any case, while she decided to wait and stay with him. So, first of all, you need to postpone the divorce, because if she leaves him in such a situation, she will be uneasy in her soul. After preventing Claude's death, she decides to return to thinking about divorce. Preventing his death is a completely doable mission. She will see how Claude's life ends, so she is in an advantageous position. Therefore, perhaps he will be able to cope with the task, saving the lives of both Claude and himself. Claude got out of bed and said that he was grateful that she had made such a decision. He respected her choice and would try to make sure that she did not change her decision. So that she never wants to leave him, he will do everything possible for this. Even though she made this decision that night, she is now more determined. First, she decided to deal with this world, and at all costs, she would survive with Claude. The next day, a priestess arrived to completely heal Claude's wounds, since the Duke's fame had spread throughout the country. The temple, which did not want relations with his family to deteriorate, immediately sent a priestess to him. Ayla greeted the priestess, thanking her for coming and saying that his lordship was in his room. The priestesses here worship the goddess Rahasa, who is considered the goddess of peace. The priestesses can cast out demons with the help of the divine power that is bestowed upon them, but they can also heal illnesses and wounds. To heal such severe wounds as Claude's, you need to be a fairly high-ranking priestess. Claude undressed, and the priestess began to heal his back, and in the blink of an eye the wound healed as if it had never existed. Ayla was happy, because if the wound had healed, it meant he was no longer in pain, and she thanked the priestess, saying that she couldn't even find the words to express her gratitude. As expected of a priestess, she was very modest in both words and deeds, and for some time, she decided to visit their temple. Ayla asked if she could find out her name, and the priestess replied that her name was Siren. Then Siren asked Ayla to speak with her alone. The Siren asked Ayla for permission to test her energy. The priestess felt that her energy was somehow different from other people. It turns out that she felt that she had a different energy, and if it was suddenly revealed that she was not Ayla, she could be expelled using some kind of ritual. The priestess took Ayla by the hands. Ayla felt warmth, and the siren finished quite quickly. She said that at first she thought she sensed an energy similar to divine power, but after checking, she realized that it was different from her. Siren asked if she had noticed any oddities in her body. Ayla thought that the situation where she became Ayla was in itself unusual. But she didn't tell the priestess this. Of course she didn't say it. The siren said that if during the whole time nothing special happened to her body, then maybe it was just because of a different spirit from the others. Because every person has his own spirit, and probably my lady has become the owner of the most extraordinary of them, Cyrena added. Ayla thought that her spirit was more unique due to the fact that she switched souls, and Siren said that she should go to the temple and wished her a good day. After she left, Isla breathed a sigh of relief and decided to quickly return to Claude. But when she went to see him, she saw that he was still changing clothes and said that she could come back a little later. But Claude replied that he was almost dressed. He felt that the atmosphere was a little different from usual and asked if something had happened. Ayla said that she wanted to discuss future plans and said that they should talk to Noah first, because he is a very important person to us. The first point of the plan to save them, she must use Noah, who can begin to distort the original story. Claude was a little nervous, and Ayla kept saying that she just wanted him to seriously think about what she told him from now on. He asked if she was talking about the blacksmith who forged the swords, and Ayla nodded approvingly, thinking that valuable talents should be treated properly. And she said that Noah has an exclusive contract with her, so she wants to make sure that he will not want for anything, and he needs a place to work, so she would like to prepare a new forge soon. It would be great if she became the largest and best forge in the empire. Claude replied that he would do so, and asked if she needed anything. Ayla replied that in order to produce magic swords, it was necessary to organize an uninterrupted supply of magic stones. Isla said that she was going to study again how to manage internal affairs from Henry, since she was the mistress of this estate, and would try to fulfill her duties. She herself thought that she would do everything as long as she stayed next to him. She said that she had long since stopped doing any business, so she had completely forgotten how to work. Claude replied that she could do whatever she wanted, and when Isla decided to return, Claude stopped her. He said that it seems that blacksmith is important to her and asked where he ranks in importance to her. Ayla was surprised why he suddenly asked such a question, and suggested that it was all because of the money invested in Noah. In that case, it would be better if she said that he's very important, but not too important. So she said that he is in third place, because he is a genius the like of which cannot be found in the entire empire. Therefore, if he invests in him now, he will benefit. Ayla did not finish speaking as Claude interrupted her. Claude asked her who was first on her list, and Ayla calmly replied that he was second, and Claude asked who was first then. When Ayla began to say that, of course, she was the first one, Claude no longer heard her and asked her not to speak. Claude thought that if they heard the answer, he would only become even more confused in his feelings. If he was on the second, then he needed to get around that person. And he himself became embarrassed, thinking that he had to try hard for first place, so he said that he had important business and he had to go. But before the door, he admitted that he would try, so that she would not regret her decision to stay by his side. And he swore that he would give her everything and do anything for her. Then again he asked her to stay by his side. So the day came to return to the ducal castle, as Isla decided to stay with Claude. Janice and Rosen officially became her bodyguards. Isla thought that she felt like she was returning home after a long time. At the entrance to the castle, Henry greeted Isla. She got out of the carriage and said that she was glad to see him and felt as if she had not seen him for 100 years. Henry also replied that he was glad to see her, and Claude advised her to rest. Ayla returned to her room and Lena greeted her joyfully, saying that she missed her very much and that she was worried about her. Lena noticed that she was laughing and asked why. Ayla replied that she was just glad that now the city and her family were safe. There are so many joyful events happening around, Ayla said, and Lena replied that she had heard all the news and was very grateful to her. Ayla said that during all this time, she endured all the difficulties with steadfastness, and now she does not need to worry about anything. Lena continued to cry, but now she was happy and thanked Ayla for her care. Ayla was finally convinced that she had made the right choice when she went to the city. But now she was already thinking about how she could save Claude. She wondered why Claude even decided to organize a rebellion. Of course, he had to prepare a conspiracy because he wanted to become emperor. Seeing so many differences from the novel, this worries her very much, both the first prince and Edith and Claude. Also, the novel doesn't mention who summoned the monsters, so maybe there is another reason why Claude organized the rebellion. Because he is not a reckless man who blindly commits treason just because he covets the throne. If it's about power, then he already has enough of it. Perhaps he desires absolute power, or he doesn't like the prince. In this case, she even understands him a little, but be that as it may, that idiot is the main male character of the novel. Moreover, if the army has not yet been mobilized, then even if Claude is indeed plotting treason, everything seems to be still in the planning stages. In this case, she has a chance. The month that she promised Claude has passed, but there are still 5 left before he is killed for treason. Firstly, efforts must be made to prevent a riot. Having found evidence of the impending conspiracy, she will have to convince Claude not to do this. But of course, there is no guarantee that he will listen to her. Isla decided that while she was next to Claude, she had no choice but to simply look for evidence and reasons for the betrayal. She came up and told Henry that he probably heard himself that she was going to take care of the internal affairs of the residents. Henry himself was very happy and said that he would prepare everything thoroughly so that my lady could calmly return to business. But when Ayla started, she couldn't imagine that she would need to deal with so many things. She was already thinking about going back to her old routine of just eating, walking, and sleeping. But she brushed those thoughts aside and decided to get serious about it. When Henry taught her to parse documents, everything seemed easy and made sense, but now when she reads it herself, she can't understand anything. 2 days later, Noah sent Ayla a letter thanking her for the new forge and describing how excited he was to work there. He thanked her for providing so many magic stones, and Noah worked hard every day to meet her expectations. Rosen approached Ayla and asked if she was working too hard and said that lately she had no time to even talk. Isla replied that nothing could be done about it, even Henry at random, because she had completely stopped messing around. She asked if he knew where Claude was now, and Rosen replied that he was now at the training ground with other knights, and Ayla decided to go there. If Noah makes more magic swords, soon all the knights will be able to use them. Claude noticed Ayla and asked what she was doing at the training ground, and Ayla replied that she heard that he had prepared a new forge for Noah and came to thank him. And Claude replied that he had not done anything special, because in any case it would pay off. Ayla told Rosen that he didn't have to follow her and allowed him to enjoy his free time and went for a walk with Claude herself. Claude said that the investigation did not yield any results, except that these are indeed magic circles that cause monsters, the work of a dark magician, because monsters can only be summoned by a warlock who practices forbidden magic, but he does not know which sorcerer would dare to do such a thing. Claude said that she didn't need to worry because she was next to him. Ayla asked if he told the other aristocrats. He replied that everyone was confused, and there would be a lot of talk about this at the upcoming banquet in honor of the founding of the country. According to the novel, this event will take place in 2 weeks, and maybe he will actually find something there. The next day, Ayla went to the jewelry store and thought that at the banquet in honor of the founding of the country, it would be enough to make a diamond necklace. Last time, she put a stop to the arrogant behavior of the nobles, so now this kind of thing will not happen again. There is no gem equal to this diamond, because it is the most precious stone in the empire, belonging to the trailer of a kingdom that fell 100 years ago. This woman is Fiona. She is the owner of a jewelry salon and is known as a skilled craftsman in the processing of precious stones. Thanks to the fine craftsmanship and beautiful designs, her jewelry was popular among both aristocrats and the imperial family. Ayla gave her her diamond and said that she wanted her to make a necklace with that diamond. Fiona immediately recognized Princess Shay's diamond and said that it was a great honor to see such a thing in real life. Ayla asked to create a necklace of her own choosing for the day the country was founded. The girl thanked her for entrusting her with the diamond and promised to do everything in the best possible way. Claude suggested that she choose something else since they came here, but Ayla said that she had enough jewelry. Fiona said that among the gems delivered to this salad, there was one that would be perfect for her. A beautiful ruby, which is called the Tear of the Sun. It harmonizes perfectly with my lady's fiery hair, and Claude said that they take it. And while they were looking at the jewelry, the Crown Prince and Edith came into the salon. Ayla immediately became sad, but still bowed and said that she was honored to welcome the prince. Claude came forward and also greeted the prince. Edith also did not remain silent and said that she was glad to meet them. The prince told Ayla that he allowed himself to be called by name when they meet again. It seems he completely forgot about her refusal. Isla was angry because he decided everything himself without even asking her, and seeing Edith's reaction only made her more nervous. Therefore, Ayla said that she did not remember that she agreed, and the prince again ignored her, asking that she contributed to the victory over the monsters in Etherton. The prince said that she was truly amazing, and he knew it since she poured alcohol on that guy's head, and asked her to tell about everything in as much detail as possible. Claude told the prince that if he wanted to keep his body intact, he had better stop showing interest in his wife, so Ayla shut his mouth. She was afraid that this would only worsen their relationship and that a rebellion would come faster. But the prince only said that he saw that the couple's relationship was improving. And suddenly Edith reminded him of her existence, and the prince himself admitted that he had managed to forget about her. Isla thought that they were acting rather strangely. And if you remember the words Edith said during the tea party, she has a romantic relationship with the prince, but so far this is not visible. Claude noticed the way she looked at them and said if she looked at other men like that, he would be jealous. Then he touched her hair and said that he wanted her to look only at him as much as possible. She agreed, and Claude arranged to send all the purchased jewelry to the ducal castle, and they left the salon in an embrace. In the carriage, Claude asked if she was interested in the first prince. Isla replied that she hoped he was joking, and asked where he got such thoughts from. Claude replied that the prince looked quite attractive. Ayla thought that no matter how much she liked everything beautiful, she did not like the prince. She thought Claude was much more suited to her preferences, and asked if he thought she would look at a man who already had a lover. Then Ayla accidentally said out loud, "Is it possible to find a man who is more beautiful than Claude?" Realizing that she had said this out loud, she immediately blushed, just like Claude, who did not expect such a confession. After an awkward silence, Ayla said that she didn't like the prince anyway, and asked him to stop talking about it. Then she herself asked if the first prince was unpleasant to him, and Claude calmly replied that naturally, he could not like him under any circumstances. Indeed, Claude believes that the first prince is not suitable for the role of emperor, and if she asks about the princess, it will be too suspicious. Claude continued to say that he didn't like the idiot who had an unnecessary interest in his wife. Ayla decided to clarify her question and asked if he liked the idea of the first prince becoming the next emperor. Claude gave a rather strange answer to this. He said that this question was a little dangerous. Ayla realized that it was difficult for him to answer this question. Ayla thought that she was too impatient, but Claude suddenly said that if she was there, nothing else mattered to him. Claude said that he officially adheres to neutrality and does not intend to act in concert with other nobles, but at the same time, he also will not bow his head to the emperor. His words meant that he was neither on the side of the imperial family nor the nobility, Ayla thought, and the same applies to the problem of the heir to the throne. Although the forces supporting the prince and princess are clearly divided, he does not belong to either side. Claude said he didn't care who the next emperor was, but at least he didn't say anything about his dislike for the prince. And she told him that the prince was quite dissolute, and asked, knowing this, he still did not mind the fact that he would become emperor. Claude replied that aristocratic society is littered with pretense and disguise, and the imperial family is no exception, and all the actions of the prince cannot be taken at face value. Ayla asked what he meant, and Claude replied that perhaps the first prince was behaving this way on purpose. She asked why he said something like that, and Claude said that the first prince changed precisely after the death of the second prince. Since childhood, he was told that he had a good memory, but after the death of the second prince, Jay began to act like an idiot. Ayla asked if the second prince died due to an accident. Claude replied that there was a carriage accident and he died at the age of 14. While still extremely young, the second prince attracted attention with his outstanding talents in various fields. In addition, he was the spitting image of the empress. However, he died young at the age of 14. Such a description was given in the novel. The accident turns out to be an accident with a carriage. On the day of the death of the second prince, there was a national holiday for the founding of the country. After the banquet, the young man left the palace, accompanied to watch the festival. But the problem was that night it rained like buckets. On the way back to the palace, the carriage passed the river. The wet road was slippery, which led to the tragedy. The first prince was only 2 years older than the second, which means that Jay was only 16 when he died in that accident. In that case, the death of his younger brother changed him. Ayla said that if he was shocked by his death, then the change in his behavior could be understood. Claude said that this might be one of the reasons, and said that the second prince left the palace with only minor preparations to observe the celebration in secret. But what if there was someone who knew about his actions in advance? Ayla asked if he thought that someone planned that accident. Claude replied that there was something strange about the accident. When the search party went down and found the body of the bodyguard, there was a puncture wound on his body. But it was difficult to confirm this, since the body was in the water for too long, and the investigation did not give them anything. In addition, sometime later, the Empress, who was investigating the accident, suddenly died. Some say she was poisoned. And the Emperor, who could not find out anything about their death, chose to close the case, and it was during that period that the prince changed. He must have thought that someone had disguised his brother's death as an accident. There is clearly an uncertain aspect to this death, which means there are people who threaten the imperial family. The forces were powerful enough to end the lives of the prince and empress. That's why the prince may have decided to try to survive in this way, decided to become reckless and act like a fool. Indeed, he seemed completely normal when talking to Edith, even though their relationship was rather awkward. Of course, this is just his guess, but the imperial family is a complex place, so this possibility cannot be completely ruled out. Even if the prince intended this, his actions are still unpleasant for Claude, especially the fact that he is trying to get closer to Ayla. Claude said that, as expected, it would be much better if the princess became the emperor's successor. It was surprising to learn that the prince could just be pretending, but something else was even more stunning. She remembered how Claude said that he didn't care who might become the next emperor, but still he decided to rebel. Ayla was tired of such thoughts and decided to take a little nap, and then think about everything again. But when she opened her eyes, she saw Claude, who had gathered his army. This scene is a prelude to the ending of the novel, the part where Claude tries to rebel, but the prince attacks him and kills him. It looks like he is going to lead his army to the imperial palace, but they were never able to get there. Because the prince attacked the duchy before Claude advanced with the army, suddenly, Claude declared that the emperor was vicious, and the corrupt imperial family was rotten to the roots. Claude continued that this way he would wash away this rot with the blood of the reigning family. Ayla stepped forward and tried to talk to Claude. However, Claude said that he would cut off the head and soak the throne in blood, and then kill all members of the imperial family to stain the imperial palace with their blood. He decided to show everyone what the anger of the Reinhard family is. Ayla thought about what he was talking about. And when would the imperial family cause harm to the duchy? Isla tried to stop Claude again and told him that he would fail. One of the knights approached Claude and said that he had received a report that the prince, at the head of an army, had invaded the territory of the duchy. Apparently, there was an information leak. In any case, he will reach the castle soon. Claude became more angry and said that he still wanted to kill all the members of the imperial family and decided to finish off him first. Then he would go to the palace. Then Claude ordered his army to prepare for battle and said that the prince had invaded their territory. He shouted that his soldiers would not let fear break them. After he beheaded the prince, they would go to the palace. The battle was already in full swing, and Ayla saw Claude standing next to the prince. The prince asked why he decided to revolt. Claude replied that he did not dare to ask about such a thing because he himself knew everything perfectly well. The prince said that he understood perfectly well that the probability of failure was high, and if he lost, then all his people would die, and asked if he really didn't care about his people, and reminded that his wife would be executed just like him. Claude said that he should not dare talk about Ayla, because she is important to him. Claude said that he was not going to tremble in fear because of a scoundrel like him. The prince used his magic sword and attacked Claude. The prince admitted that Claude was really strong. There was no other monster like him. But then the prince said that his people would not be able to hold out. Ayla noticed that Claude would cope with difficulties without effort. However, even though his knights are holding up better than expected, they already look pretty exhausted. Claude told the prince to stop yapping, and the prince attacked the duke again. But with a sword like Claude's, he wouldn't last long, and so it happened. The prince was able to wound Claude. Claude asked him not to touch Ayla, because he was the one who planned everything. He said that Asla didn't know anything, so he just asked to leave her alone. The prince apologized, but said that it no longer depended on him, and he could not do anything, even if this was his will. Ayla started screaming at the prince that he had just killed him, and now she was saying that he couldn't do anything. She ran up to Claude and asked him not to close his eyes. She hugged Claude with tears in her eyes and begged him not to die. Suddenly someone called her. At first, it seemed to Ayla that it was the priestess Siren, but then she realized that this was not so. That girl asked Ayla if she could prevent Claude's impending death, and Ayla shouted to her that she was ready for anything and asked what she should do for this. And that's how she woke up. She thought that she had dreamed about the plot of the novel, but the dream was too clear. And besides, that dialogue was not in the novel. After all, maybe that dream was an illusion made up by her, and there was also a girl who looked like Siren. As soon as Ayla got dressed, she ran to Claude's office. Claude asked why she looked so pale. Claude stroked her hair and asked if she was sick. Ayla replied that she was fine. She was glad that Claude was okay and asked how he was feeling. Claude replied that he was as healthy as an ox. Ayla apologized for coming to him so unexpectedly because he was probably busy with work. But Claude replied that even if he was busy, she could still come to him. She noticed a letter on the table and asked what kind of letter it was. Claude replied that it was a message from the temple. All because the duchy makes decent monetary donations, so he received a letter of gratitude. It was Ayla who donated money. Nothing special is written there. The ministers are grateful for the money and want to express their gratitude, so they invite them to the temple at any time. And she is haunted by that moment in her dream. The woman who looked so much like Siren, she turned out to be too similar to her. Ayla asked if he could give her some time and suggested they go to the temple together. Claude asked why she wanted to go there. Ayla replied that she personally would like to see the temple, and Claude suggested going there right after lunch. Then Ayla surprised him by asking him to have lunch together. She said that she was worried about him skipping meals, and she wanted to take care of her husband. At lunch, Claude asked why she came to him in the morning. Ayla said that it was nothing special, and he didn't have to pay attention to it. Of course, it was not an ordinary dream at all, but it seems she will look funny if she says that she came running to him because of some kind of nightmare. But Claude said that she could tell him everything, and Ayla asked him not to laugh and said that she had a bad dream. Isla said that she saw something she never wanted to see. Claude replied that a dream was just a dream, and what happened in the dream could not affect her in any way. Claude said that he was nearby, and no matter what happened, he would under no circumstances allow this to happen. Isla said that Claude must definitely keep his word, and she herself thought that she did the right thing by coming to him. They then went to the temple. The priest greeted them and said that they were honored that she had decided to honor them with her visit. There was no need to provide such a warm welcome, apparently. The amount of money was much greater than she thought. Ayla said that she would like to explore the temple, and she also wants to see Serena to thank her for her help. The priest said that he could tell Serena to show her the temple herself. Priestess Serena came to accompany them. Serena said that she was glad to see her again. Ayla said that she was also glad to see them, and thanked her again for her help. Serena replied that she was informed that she wanted to inspect the temple and asked to follow Anya. This is a standard prayer room for visitors. Those who come to the temple usually pray to the goddess here. While Serena was talking about the temple, Ayla thought that she really looked a lot like the girl from her dream. Ayla asked if this door could be opened so easily for strangers. Serena replied that entry was only allowed to guests who had received permission. It turns out that donations are the very standard that determines whether guests are special or not. Ayla said that she saw most of the priests and noticed that only she had this hair color, and asked if there was a reason for this phenomenon. Although even among them, Siren has the most snow-white hair color, Siren replied that the color symbolizing the goddess is white, and such a color appears when faith is strong. This is logical because Siren also has powerful divine power, but it seems that Ayla also remembered that the girl's hair was snow-white in her dream. Suddenly, Ayla saw a beautiful bracelet. She had a desire to take it for herself, which she had never felt before. Serena said that she could pray here, and Ayla asked what kind of bracelet it was. This is the bracelet of the goddess. Ayla thought she had guessed that the object that lies in the middle of the special prayer room. Ayla asked if it was possible to leave such a thing like that in the prayer room. Serena said that it was completely safe, since it was protected by the sacred scriptures. It has been a long time since the defenses have been strengthened with dozens of additional barriers, and even if everyone joins forces, they will not be able to overcome the barrier. Moreover, even if the barrier is broken, it is impossible to remove the bracelet from the altar due to the sacred symbols engraved around it. The reason why the bracelet is here, the holy relic, strengthens people's faith. Feeling the divine energy inside just by looking at it seemed strange to Ayla, because she doesn't feel anything except that she wants it for herself. There is another reason, namely the prediction. When a bracelet was found in the temple a long time ago, the prophecy of the goddess was conveyed through the lips of the high priestess. It says that in an era of chaos, someone will appear who will become the owner of the bracelet, and it will be he who will establish world order. Therefore, following this prediction, the goddess's bracelet was placed in a special room until the owner appeared. Ayla unconsciously took a step forward. Ayla heard that same voice again and took a step forward again, and suddenly the glass broke despite the barrier. Suddenly, the bracelet flew up and ended up on Ayla's hand. Everyone was confused and could not say anything. Ayla was also shocked and thought that she only wanted to look at the bracelet, but she had no thoughts of taking the bracelet. However, if you look at the situation she now finds herself in, she looks like a thief who stole the bracelet. Claude said that the barrier suddenly collapsed, so this process could somehow affect her. He asked if anything hurt her. Isla replied that everything was fine, and Claude asked how this even happened. Isla said that she herself did not understand anything. Suddenly, 3 priests burst into the prayer room and began shouting for them to explain what had happened. They shouted at Ayla, asking why she stole the bracelet. Ayla replied that she didn't steal anything, and it was all a misunderstanding. They shouted that the bracelet was on her hand, so there couldn't be a misunderstanding. Claude told them to shut up and ordered them not to raise their voices to his wife. The man shouted that he had released murderous energy at the sacred temple and asked if he really wanted to make the temple his enemy. Claude replied that he could go for it, since they treat the mistress of the house Reinhard as a thief. Ayla explained that she did not intend to steal the bracelet, and the man said that she should explain herself. Claude told him that if he wanted to save his language, he had better be more polite. Ayla asked him to calm down and thought why he was behaving this way, because you can't resist the temple. Also, according to the novel, Claude is destined to lose, so he must maintain friendly relations with the temple, and Ayla said that she really didn't do anything. She doesn't know how to overcome the barrier, and she simply raised her hand, and suddenly the barrier broke, and the bracelet flew in her direction. And the priestess Siren also saw everything, how the barrier suddenly disappeared, and Siren replied that everything was so. In addition, she had no desire to own the goddess's bracelet, and she herself does not understand how the bracelet ended up on her hand. The man said that from her words, it follows that the barrier had stopped working. Another said that the barrier had been installed a long time ago. Ayla said that she really never wanted this bracelet, so she will take it off immediately. Starkey said that he would take it off, but Claude replied that he would take off the bracelet himself. But Ayla refused, and she decided to take it off herself. But when she tried to take it off, for some reason the bracelet wouldn't come off. Ayla said that her hands were probably sweaty and she couldn't untie it, and asked Claude to help. But Claude also couldn't take off the bracelet. She said that apparently his hands were sweaty too, and the old man said that he would take it off himself. However, the old man couldn't do anything either, and he offered to cut off Ayla's wrist in order to get him out, and Claude, of course, began to threaten him with decapitation. The man said that nothing could break the goddess's bracelet. They personally checked it. Ayla was worried that she would have to wear it all her life. The siren suggested that maybe it was a matter of prophecy if the prediction came true. Then Milady is the owner of the bracelet. Leaving the goddess's bracelet in a special prayer room because of the prophecy was only a formal reason, because they did it for money. Ayla was surprised that money was the real reason and wondered if they were too worldly. Starkey said that, moreover, the prophecy was that the owner of the bracelet would correct the times of chaos, but now the world is calm. Siren asked if they didn't know that some sorcerers had summoned demonic monsters, and therefore this era, not without reason, can be called a time of chaos. Ayla was surprised that Serena was trying to support her because she had no reason to do so. Her goal is to save Claude. He does not want to become the one who will put an end to the chaos. She does not need such a heavy burden of responsibility on her shoulders. The priest said it was strange that the Duke received the bracelet because he shed so much blood in battles. The old man said that if the owner of the bracelet, then my lady should try to use its divine power. The man said that if my lady could do this, then there would be no doubt that she was the owner of the bracelet. Shouldn't they at least tell him how to use it? She began to imitate what she saw other priestesses use their magic. However, no matter how hard she tried, nothing happened. Ayla said that she was probably not the owner of the bracelet and asked how she could remove it. The man replied that they themselves don't know. No one has looked for the bracelet until now. First, they'll have to leave everything as it is for a while. Claude ordered them to remove this thing from her wrist right now, or soon there would be no more temple in the empire. He accused them of not having installed a good barrier themselves, but of daring to treat his wife like a thief, even though they themselves did not know how to remove it. Apparently they long for death. The priests apologized for what happened and said that they are still at a loss as to why the barrier disappeared. Claude asked if they didn't install it, and now they say they don't know why. The old man apologized and said that they were all figuring out how to safely remove the bracelet and asked to reduce their anger. Claude said that if they did not succeed, then he would turn the temple into ruins. And then the old man said that they would try to solve the problem quickly, but for now, just in case, they would assign a priestess to the Duchess, since the bracelet may have other changes. Serena said that in this case, she would remain close to the Duchess, so they did so. They left the temple, and Ayla was sad that now, because of this trip, she had only one more worry. Ayla asked how they plan to hide this situation. If what happened becomes public knowledge, they will find themselves in a difficult situation. Siren said that for now, they plan to close the special prayer room where the goddess bracelet was located, and during this time, they will try to make an imitation of it. But even if there is a fake, the plan is unlikely to work, since she is wearing a bracelet, and in 2 weeks, she will go to a banquet. Ayla asked if this would really work because she had the bracelet. Serena replied that few people had seen the relic. Only a few were allowed to see the goddess's bracelet. Ayla thought it was good that it was placed in a special prayer room. Even if someone recognizes the bracelet, they will probably think that it is an elaborate copy. Ayla said that people will not be deceived for long. Serena said that at least she hopes that during this time they will find a way to remove the bracelet. Claude said everything will be fine, but he still can't believe what happened and they will all have to work hard. The siren became quiet and Ayla asked why the siren volunteered to accompany her. And she replied that in fact she thinks that she got the bracelet because she has unusual energy. If you think about it, last time Serena said that she felt a special energy that emanated from her. The person who becomes the lord of the holy relic must have a dud that is different from ordinary people. Ayla began to worry a little and thought about what she wanted to say by this. Siren said that she believes that the person referred to in the prophecy is her. She confidently said that she thinks that she is the owner of the bracelet. Ayla said that this is impossible because she cannot even use the holy relic. But Serena still believed that she was the mistress. Ayla wondered why Serena, who looked quite adequate, behaved this way. And then the siren said that she was going to watch the prophecy come true. Claude was also worried and asked if she was okay, and said that if something happened to her, she should tell him about it. Ayla said that she was completely fine and reminded that she was repeating this for the 13th time, and the priestess also said that everything would be fine. She said that at the temple she promised to do everything possible to remove the bracelet from her hand as soon as possible. Isla advised him not to worry. Claude said that he could not help but worry, because what happened had a direct bearing on her. They returned to the duchy, and Henry, as always, greeted them and was surprised when he saw the priestess. Ayla told him the whole situation and asked him to allocate a room for her where she could perform her daily prayers. Henry said that he would take her to the room assigned to her. Isla continued to worry about what had happened. Claude said that in the palace, with the exception of him and the priestess, no one else saw the holy relic, so she can be calm. And only the banquet causes concern, because all the high-ranking nobles will gather at this event, and they can recognize the relic. Ayla said that she can say that she made an imitation bracelet. There is hardly anyone who can determine its authenticity. Besides, Ding might be able to find a way to remove the bracelet by then, so she asked him not to worry. Claude said that she was probably tired because of such an unexpected incident, and Ayla apologized for causing him so much trouble because of her. But Claude replied that she didn't do anything wrong, so she didn't need to apologize. Ayla blushed and thought that it was probably because Claude's eyes were directed at her. or because he touched her cheek. The thought came to her that she wanted to stay next to Claude as long as possible, but she said out loud that it was time for her to go. Ayla lay down on the bed and thought that he shouldn't behave like that, and why, unlike others, he treats her with warmth. This makes her heart flutter more. Claude is probably trying to show his closeness in this way, and not because he loves her. And if she had not talked about divorce, he would not have treated her this way. He simply realized that Ayla was also a person who could disappear at any moment. Later in the evening, Claude knocked on Ayla's room and asked permission to enter. Ayla wondered why he came at such a late hour. Claude came into the room and said that she still hadn't gone to bed. Ayla said that she was just getting ready to go to bed. Then Claude said that he came to put her to bed. He took a stool and said that she had a nightmare. Therefore, he came here to be by her side until she ends up in the kingdom of Morpheus. He helped her lie down and sat down on a chair and advised her to sleep. Now she is not alone and can feel safe. Claude said that he would remove the bad dreams from her so she didn't have to worry. Ayla felt comfortable, but when Claude told her not to worry about anything and that he would protect her, fear enveloped her. For a second, she was paralyzed with fear. It felt as if she had already heard these words before. Claude noticed this and asked if something had happened, but Ayla, a little confused, said that everything was fine. Definitely the day was too busy, and apparently it was a hallucination. Then she took his hand and asked him to be nearby. Ayla asked him to lie next to her rather than sit on a chair. She convinced herself that there was nothing special about it. She said that she was even more scared by the thought that someone was sitting on the chair and watching her. Claude asked if he could do this. Ayla replied that she allowed it. He replied that he would be there until she fell asleep. Claude lay down next to her and Ayla asked to take her hand. So they spent the night together. And in the morning, Ayla woke up early in the morning and saw that Claude was not around, apparently returned when she fell asleep, and the bracelet was still on her hand. Ayla stood up and Henry asked permission to enter. Ayla allowed it, then asked where the priestess was. Henry replied that she had just performed a ritual. She asked him to take care of her breakfast, but then said that it would be better if he personally invited her to have a cup of tea with her. Henry ordered tea to be brought to the mistress's room. Ayla went into the mistress's room and offered to drink tea with her. They sat down, and Ayla immediately asked if there was any news from the temple. Serena replied that only one day had passed. Of course, they had not found anything yet. Serena replied that she had not yet received any messages, but as soon as there was any news, she would immediately inform her about it. Ayla herself realized that she was in vain waiting for quick news, because the barrier that had not been broken for decades was destroyed only yesterday. Then Ayla said that she was interested, that at the first meeting, she said that she felt unusual energy in her body, but the other priestesses did not say anything like that. Ayla asked if she could be wrong, and Siren replied that she knew that the color white symbolizes the goddess, and her color is much lighter than others. Thanks to the love of the goddess, she was given this hair color from birth. Therefore, she has stronger senses and more powerful divine power than others, and therefore she can sense things that others cannot. Ayla then asked if she planned to attend the banquet in honor of the founding of the country. Serena replied that what happened with the bracelet did not give them any other choice. Ayla thought that this had already been agreed upon after all. Perhaps it would actually be more helpful if they were there. Serena said that the plan was for her to join a group of priests, and they would arrive at the event together, so they would see each other on the day of the banquet. Ayla thought that it would be much more natural if she and the priests arrived separately, although the siren remained in the ducal palace under the pretext of the consecration. The day of the banquet in honor of the founding of the country was approaching. On the eve of the event, the siren returned to the temple to join the other priests, and the day before the banquet, Ayla was very busy. The maids circled around Ayla and said that they would prepare rose petals for her bath. Lena asked her to try on a new dress. It seems that the maids liked the preparation more than Ayla. Suddenly one of them said that Princess Shay had sent a necklace with a diamond. She opened the box and saw how Mistress Fiona had worked on her diamond. Ayla said that it was worth giving Fiona double credit for her craftsmanship. She thought that no one could ignore her presence with such decoration, and said that she was looking forward to tomorrow's banquet. The day of the banquet arrived, and the maids worked all morning on Ayla's look. She put on a yellow dress that matches her hair color. After she put the ring on, the tender words that Claude whispered to her at that time came to mind, and a shiver suddenly ran through her body. The words that touched her to the core and left a bitter aftertaste were full of sincerity. His sincere voice sounded truthful, and his gaze was directed only at Ayla. Ayla thought that she should stop bringing this up, because it would only complicate her confused feelings. Lena asked if she was going to the banquet with this bracelet on her hand. She thought that Ayla really liked the bracelet, so she didn't take it off. Ayla hoped that during the banquet she would also easily be able to dodge unnecessary questions. Afterwards, Ayla left her room and saw Claude, who was waiting for her as always. He said that she looked beautiful, and Ayla said that he looked elegant too. Claude said that it was an honor to hear such compliments. These words made Ayla's heart flutter again. When she raised her hand, Claude noticed that she was wearing that ring. Ayla said that he gave it to her, so she put it on. Then Claude took her hand and said that she looked perfect. They then went to the banquet, Ayla noticing that the palace looked more luxurious than usual. Then they entered the palace, and people immediately began to stare at them. Claude began to worry, but Ayla said that she was not that weak and asked not to worry. The girls began to discuss that it was the first time they had seen such a smile on the Duke, and recalled that there were rumors that they were on bad terms. They said that even at the tea party, the Duke himself came for his wife, and then they noticed that Ayla had Princess Shay's diamond on her neck. One of them asked if she was sure that this was the same diamond, and the other replied that by its brilliance and size, one could immediately recognize the right diamond. And there is also the tear of the sun, that ruby that was delivered to the jewelry store. Such a stone is difficult to obtain even for high-ranking nobles. They also noticed the bracelet and said it looked cheap, and assumed she came from a bankrupt family and had no idea what jewelry harmony was. They were discussing Ayla, standing next to her. Ayla thought that they didn't even know that they were looking at the goddess's bracelet. Suddenly, one of the girls said that Count Erder had also arrived at today's banquet. Count Erder is the father of the real Ayla. For some reason, this news scared Ayla very much. The girls continued to say that they had heard that the noble duchess had never deigned to pay attention to the count after her marriage. Ayla was surprised that the count came to the event. Ayla's father, the count, was not assigned any role in the novel at all. Moreover, it was stated that he never appeared at official events, as he became the object of ridicule by the nobility after his family was on the verge of bankruptcy. She wondered how an aristocrat with such a reputation managed to get to the founding banquet, and if he realized that she was not real, then she would be in trouble. They now said that Ayla, who married Claude to pay off her family's debt, never visited the count after her marriage. This plumage is too different from the image of the real Ayla described in the novel. In the novel, Ayla married Claude for the sake of her family, and most likely it was a forced marriage, so she does not have warm feelings for the count. Indeed, if he is a father who, without thinking about the future, incurred a lot of debts, then sold his daughter, whereas, as was said, Ayla does not like her father. Apparently, the plan according to which she was going to go to her family's palace after the divorce and live a comfortable life there was thwarted. Ayla hugged Claude's hand and wondered if she should sell some gems, and decided to be more careful if she met her father. Then the emperor, the first prince and Princess Dorothea arrived. They sat down at the table, and the emperor began his speech. He said that he was glad that everyone had gathered for the founding day of the country, and promised, like the previous emperors who defended it, he also vows to sacrifice his life for the sake of the empire. Dorothea then rose and asked to enjoy this banquet, and raised her glass in honor of the beginning of the celebration. A boy approached Ayla and offered him champagne. Ayla politely declined and told Claude that the atmosphere was freer than she thought. It's strange. It is so different from her assumptions. There is an opinion that the national holiday of the founding of the country is a happy day. Therefore, everyone prefers to freely indulge in pleasure. And then Ayla noticed that the temple with the siren had already arrived. Ayla suddenly felt uneasy and hugged Claude again when she noticed her father approaching them. Her father immediately started shouting that she at least knew how much her father missed her. He continued to shout at her while saying that he missed her. At that moment, she learned for the first time that Count Erder had been writing letters to the real Ayla for a year. Apparently, she ignored his letters, so he stopped drying them. Then he tried to touch her. But Claude stopped him and said that he should first show respect to his wife. The Count began to shout that this was his daughter, and the father just wanted to talk to his daughter. Ayla thought that he did not participate in official events because he did not want to be ridiculed by the other nobles, and asked what he wanted to tell her. The Count said that he had a very important conversation. Ayla asked Claude to wait and said that she wanted to talk to her father. Still, it seems to her that he won't be happy to reveal it if Claude goes with them, after all. He made it clear that the conversation concerns only her. Claude released his hand and said that he was going to accompany her to the entrance to the terrace. When they went out onto the terrace, the Count asked if she was going to completely disobey the order. Ayla, of course, did not understand anything and said that she did not remember something well and asked what order he was talking about. The Count began to shout at her not to pretend and asked if she was really so in love with the Duke that she disobeyed the Emperor's orders. He said they were in such a pitiful situation, and in any case, since all this was being done for the sake of the family, she would also have to sacrifice her life. Ayla thought that he himself had squandered all the money and got into huge debts. And now he was saying this, and said that her family was now the ducal family of Reinhard. Plus, she's not sure that her father will offer her the same price the Count asked if she had gone over to the Duke's side. Ayla replied that there was no reason to sacrifice his only body for the sake of a clan that was now not even his family. The Count said that he only asked to share news about the Duke, and couldn't she do such a little for her own good? Although he said news, in reality it is no different from spying. She said that she was not going to become a spy. The Count said that she was exaggerating, and she should only tell what was happening in the palace. Then he said that she must definitely do what he tells her, and left now because of the mention of the Emperor. Ayla felt uneasy. She wondered if there was any reason why the Count should take such risks to obtain information about the Duke's family. Ayla realized that something was clearly wrong here when Claude approached her and asked if everything was okay and what they talked about with the Count. Claude saved her life and believed in her all this time, but will Claude trust her? So Ayla decided it would be best to tell Claude that the Count had asked her for information about the ducal family. But the banquet hall is filled with nobles, and this is not the best place for such a conversation, and Ayla said that she would tell everything when they returned home. Claude touched her cheek and said that if she was in a bad mood, they could go home immediately. She replied that there was no problem, and suggested that they return to the banquet hall, and she decided that she wanted to enjoy the celebration. When they returned, Ayla noticed the prince in the crowd, but she was surprised that the prince was not acting as usual. And she remembered that the second prince died outside the palace walls due to an accident while participating in a festival celebrating the founding of the country. It turns out that for the first prince, today is the day of his younger brother's death, which is a little sad. Although Ayla was thinking about checking at the next meeting whether the prince was really pretending, but for the moment it is worth postponing this plan, because now the prince looks depressed, and Ayla decided not to disturb him. Therefore, Ayla suggested that Claude move to the other side. But then the prince approached her and greeted Ayla with the same bright smile. Ayla greeted him and thought that he had been sad until this moment, and perhaps his usual behavior was acting. Then the prince noticed the Duke and greeted him. Claude did the same. Claude asked how he was doing, and the prince replied that, of course, everything was fine with him. And people began to whisper that it seemed the Duke would go over to the side of the Empire, so Claude decided to quickly move away from him. Suddenly, the prince noticed the bracelet and said that it seemed he had already seen it somewhere, and assumed that she was in the prayer room. Ayla was worried that he could recognize the bracelet, and the prince asked if he could now take a closer look at it. Even though Ayla assumed that among those gathered in the hall there would be people who would recognize the bracelet, she did not expect that it would be the prince who would pay attention to her. Claude apologized and said that he had to refuse the request, and the prince was told that if it was a simple bracelet, then why couldn't he look at it? Then Ayla said that in fact, she also recently visited a prayer team, and she was inspired by the bracelet she saw there, so she ordered a copy of the jewelry. She didn't want to admit that she made an imitation bracelet, but she had no other choice. The prince said that he could not be distinguished from a relic, probably because he saw the original, but fortunately he did not understand anything. Suddenly, someone called the prince's name, and both Ayla and the prince turned around in bewilderment. It was Edith, who was very upset when she saw the interest the prince was showing in another girl. Edith said that he had never looked at her with the same smile and ran away crying. Ayla started screaming at the prince why he was just standing there and if he was going to run after her. If you think about it, the prince's attitude towards Edith in the jewelry store was also strange. As soon as she uttered just one phrase, the prince immediately fell silent. And now the same thing is happening. Perhaps Edith somehow influences him. Ayla pushed the prince away, saying that he should go talk to her. It seems the prince still hasn't come to his senses, and Ayla was worried that he wouldn't be able to explain everything to her in this state. Claude asked what she was going to do, and Ayla replied that she thought she should go after Edith and explain everything to her. Then Claude replied that he would also go with her because he did not want her to be alone with the prince. They went out into the garden and Ayla noticed them in the distance. The prince was telling Edith that he was not interested in anyone. Ayla didn't hear anything because she was standing far away, and when she wanted to come closer, that boy from the palace touched her. Claude asked if she had twisted her ankle, and when she answered in the negative, he told the boy that he was too careless and he should be more careful. The boy apologized, and Ayla said that everything was fine and he was probably surprised, and invited him to return to his duties. Ayla asked Claude to be understanding because the boy was still very small, but then she noticed that her bracelet was lit up. But then she returned to Edith and the prince. Edith screamed why he was showing such a special attitude towards the Duchess. Ayla decided to explain everything to Edith herself and said that she thought she had misunderstood everything. But suddenly, Ayla noticed the servant who was standing behind the prince and Edith. He suddenly began to use dark magic. Claude immediately ran to her and the boy threw his first blow, but Ayla raised her hand and was able to protect Claude, the prince, and Edith. She herself did not understand how she managed to stop the blow, but the boy was not going to stop and was again preparing the next blow. But Ayla raised her hand again and managed to dispel all the magic of the dark sorcerer. Ayla was able to not only repel his attacks, but was also able to attack the boy herself. She managed to use the divine relic, by which time the knights came running and arrested the boy. The priests who were there and saw everything began to call Ayla the owner of the bracelet, and repeated that the prophecy was coming true. People started looking at Ayla and saying that she was wearing that bracelet from the prayer command, and they also started discussing the prophecy. One girl said that now there is no time to discuss all this, because the lady had just stopped the dark sorcerer and saved his highness. Ayla didn't actually intend to save the prince. She was just trying to protect herself and Claude. They began to clap for her and said that she probably hid her abilities so as not to attract too much attention, and began to praise her for her modesty. Ayla didn't particularly like this attention. Suddenly, Serena and other priests approached her, and Serena said that the temple swears with all its might to support the owner of the shrine. Suddenly, the emperor himself appeared in the garden and asked what it all meant. A man ran up to him and said that a sorcerer had entered the banquet disguised as a waiter and tried to kill the prince. Then the emperor ordered the sorcerer to be brought, and Ayla remembered that the novel said that the emperor himself was an outstanding magician, so he could maintain such a youthful appearance. A sorcerer was brought to the emperor and his magic was dispelled, who also hid his true face with magic. The sorcerer laughed and said that the emperor would not be able to find out anything, and suddenly fell to the ground and died with a capsule of poison in his mouth. The emperor ordered his corpse to be examined and shouted that he would never turn a blind eye to what had happened and that he would definitely find out everything. Then he approached Ayla and said that her achievement today would never be forgotten. He called her the heroine of the imperial family who saved the prince. Ayla only formally replied that it was a great honor for her to hear such words from the emperor. The emperor said that the celebration was spoiled by an accident and decided to end today's banquet. Suddenly, the prince approached Ayla and surprisingly seriously thanked her for saving him and Edith. Ayla was surprised that the prince thanked her so much. It felt as if this was a complete stranger in front of her. Claude and Ayla came to their karate, and Serena said that she believed that she was the owner of the relic. Ayla asked if they found out how to remove the bracelet, but Serena said that there was no reason to do this now that the owner had it, and asked to visit the temple for a short time. Siren said that perhaps the goddess would give Ayla some message. Ayla thought that she needed to find more information about the bracelet, so she really needed to go to the temple. And the same goes for the power with which she defeated the dark sorcerer. And if you think about it, when she touched the sorcerer, the bracelet sparkled. So she told Siren that when she touched the dark manga, the bracelet began to glow. Siren replied that perhaps through the touch she felt an aura of black magic. Ayla asked if this meant that the bracelet could neutralize the magic of the sorcerer. Since it is the power of the goddess who cleanses the world of evil, the sacred relic purifies black magic and turns it into nothing. The goddess's divine power is deadly to evil creatures such as sorcerers and demonic monsters. This is probably why she was able to defeat the dark sorcerer. Ayla wondered why such things keep happening to her since she is a minor character. Ayla said that she used the power of the bracelet. Does not mean that she is its owner, but Siren said that there is no doubt this is the law. The chronicles clearly state that only the owner of the relic can use the power of the bracelet. Moreover, having broken through dozens of barriers, he flew straight to her. The temple will soon make an official statement that Duchess Isla Reinhard is a sacred relic. So Serena asked to visit the temple in the near future. The temple will always support the owner of the relic. Claude said that the carriage was already waiting for them and said that she was shaking all over, and suggested that she herself had not yet realized how shocked she was. Ayla was very annoyed and thought why such incidents were happening, because in the novel this did not happen at all. The characters' personalities are also different. There are additional storylines such as the mysterious death of the second prince and the empress. First, monsters appeared in Etherton, which were summoned, now meet the sorcerer. Claude offered to carry her in his arms, since it was difficult for her to walk. Ayla was embarrassed and said that she was really amazed, but not that much, so she was able to go. Then Claude offered her his hand and said that if things got hard, she could tell him about it at any time. As soon as he noticed the presence of the dark sorcerer, Claude immediately covered her with his body. This time he again tried to protect her, without caring about his own safety. Luckily, she was able to use the bracelet's power, but she can't even imagine what would have happened if she hadn't been able to use the relic. Ayla said that she was a little surprised and asked how Claude was feeling. He replied that he was fine. Ayla said that he was probably surprised. But Claude replied that he was used to this. He had already survived many assassination attempts, although this time everything was different, because he was not the target. To some extent, Ayla assumed that Claude's life had been rather difficult, losing his family at a young age and gaining power that he did not want. But Ayla didn't expect that he faced the fact that someone was trying to kill him so often that it had already become a habit. So Ayla told Claude not to worry anymore, because now she will protect him. Claude replied that such words made his soul calm and thanked her, and suggested that she now rest a little. Getting into the carriage, Ayla asked what she should do now, because if she really is the owner of the relic, this could complicate their life. There are already many people who are wary of the strength of the Duke family, and even the temple has said that it will side with them. A combination of the second most powerful ducal house after the imperial family and a temple occupying an important position in the empire. Claude said that she didn't need to worry about it. If they were going to hold back their family, they wouldn't be able to leave a single scratch on the Duke's house. Ayla said that his words reassured her. Claude said that she always surprises him. She replied that she herself did not expect that she would become the owner of the relic. Claude said that this was also worthy of surprise, but he was going to say that she slept with him. So he wanted to thank her. He got up and walked towards her. Ayla thought that he was going to kiss her and closed her eyes. However, he simply stroked her hair and sat back in his seat and said that this was the first time someone had saved him. And although up to this point there were many people who tried to protect him, but in the end, he lost them all. So he wanted to say thank you, and said that in the Imperial Garden, he was really scared because he thought that he could not protect her. Even in front of the dark sorcerer, he acted as if he wanted to shield her from possible danger with his body. And she decided to protect Claude with all her might, and he said that he only needed her to be safe. The next day, the temple announced Ayla Reinhard as the owner of the relic. It was only natural that people were surprised by such unexpected news. And in the end, since she turned out to be the owner of the relic, it turns out that she destroyed the seal with her own hands, and it was not someone else, but she who became the owner of the goddess's bracelet. From the countess, whose family nearly went bankrupt, to the duchess, who was nothing more than a beautiful addition, the woman has not received even an ounce of recognition. She recalled how the other ladies discussed how she wore Princess Shay's diamond necklace, and how her relationship with the Duke had improved. But besides this, there was something else that amazed everyone very much, and when this fact spread, a commotion began in the Duke's castle. Lena looked at the bracelet in surprise, and Ayla said that she could touch it. But Lena politely refused, because the bracelet is a holy relic. Rosen was also surprised, and asked how she was able to get the relic in the first place. Ayla replied that the bracelet flew to her on its own. Henry said that he was also surprised and said that by becoming a mistress, she had attracted the interest of many nobles. He said that they sent her a lot of letters, but now she needs to be careful because the temple is completely on her side, and everyone will be watching her actions. The Reinhard family is neutral and has no desire to be friends with people who have ignored Ayla until now, and asked him to put the letters in order. Henry said that she had received a letter from Lady Edith. He said that he had heard that she had saved her, and asked what he should do with the letter. Ayla really saved her and the prince. It would be nice to take this opportunity to clear up the misunderstandings. She said that she would read it, and Henry gave her a letter in which Edith thanked Ayla for saving her and asked to invite her to his duchy. Ayla said that a little later she would need to send an invitation to Miss Nevelyn to the castle. She then wondered if there were any other letters she should look at, and Henry said that the prince had sent her a letter too. Lena asked why His Highness wrote her a letter. Ayla replied that she probably wanted to thank her for saving her. But before she goes to an audience with the Emperor, she will have to meet with Edith. After some time, the circumstances of the incident in the garden of the Imperial Palace were revealed. They say that a dark sorcerer stole the servant's appearance, and the poor servant was found tied up in the closet. The report also indicated that it seemed that the sorcerer had entered the Emperor's palace, taking advantage of the relaxed atmosphere at the banquet. It became difficult to find out who was behind him because the sorcerer immediately took poison and committed suicide, but Ayla is sure that this is somehow connected with the same sorcerers who attacked Etherton. Probably not easy. The dark wizards who had been hiding until now suddenly began to appear one after another. One was trying to kill the prince, and the other was caused by a monster at the Duke's estate. She wondered if it would be better to talk to Claude about it rather than deal with it herself. Ayla wanted to say about the incident with her father, but Claude interrupted her and said that if it was about her father, then she was not obligated to tell him anything. She was surprised that he wasn't trying to get information out of her, and then she thought maybe he knew that she wasn't on good terms with her father, and thus was trying to be attentive to her. Then she decided to ask him directly if he knew that she had a bad relationship with her father. Claude replied that he guessed to some extent. Ayla thought that he did not talk to Isla, but he was able to understand it. Ayla asked how he understood this, and Claude said that immediately after the wedding, the Count paid a visit, but she kicked him out without letting him out the threshold. Ayla understood why the Count had only sent letters for a whole year, and then she asked what Claude thought of her father. Claude simply answered that he didn't like someone who didn't like her. Isla thought that his answer was quite cute. Then she asked if that was the only reason. Then Claude first apologized, then said that he actually didn't like her father. Claude explained that he hated greedy people. Ayla asked if her father supported the Emperor, and Claude replied that he was in the Emperor's faction. Now it was clear why her father mentioned him. This means that he sent her here to use it to convey information about the ducal family to the Emperor. Since the Duke has remained neutral until now, this is likely highly sought after information. Then Ayla asked him to listen and asked him to understand her correctly, and Claude replied that she could tell him everything because he believed her. She said that her father demanded information from her about him. Of course, she never gave him anything, and she never even had such a thought. Claude calmly replied that there were always many people wanting information about him, and knowing how greedy a man her father was, he was not surprised. Therefore, it is not surprising that there are those who are trying to force information about the house from the inside. Claude said that it was not her fault and asked not to worry, and thanked her for telling him everything. Ayla thanked him for his trust. Ayla added that there was something strange about his request, namely that her father spoke as if it was a personal order from the Emperor. This already surprised Claude, and Ayla said that maybe her father was just trying to intimidate her in this way. But Claude replied that there is logic in this, because his family has been neutral for a long time, so perhaps the Emperor is also interested in receiving information. Or he could also think about finding his weak point and getting him to side with his faction. Ayla thought that perhaps the reason for Claude's betrayal was dislike for the Emperor, and not the prince. It seems this is understandable. Claude asked if he had not told her earlier that she should not torment herself with such emotional experiences alone. He said that if her father bothered her again, she should tell him and he would deal with him, and added that since he was her father, he would not harm him. Ayla thanked him and asked if Henry had told him that they were expected at the Imperial Palace in a few days. Claude replied that he would prepare everything for the trip. A few days later, at the invitation of Ayla, Edith Nevelyn arrived at the Reinhard residence. Edith no longer glared at Isla and thanked her for the invitations. Isla replied that she was grateful that Edith deigned to come to her and offered to sit down more comfortably. Edith praised Isla's choice of tea. For some reason, she became so polite, and this only confused Isla, but then she asked Isla to order the servant to leave. Isla did just that, and Edith said that she needed to tell her something urgently. At first, she thanked her for saving her life and then abruptly fell silent. Isla thought about the reason why she wanted to talk to her and said that there was a misunderstanding between her and Edith. To be more precise, Ayla has no feelings for the prince, and at the banquet, the prince spoke to her only because he recognized the relic on her hand. So Ayla again asked to understand her correctly. In addition, she has a husband, Claude. Edith said that she was aware that the Duke loved her. Even when the sorcerer appeared, the Duke protected her with his body, without having any weapons in his hands. But most importantly, the Duke's gaze on her is so similar to the one with which she looks at the prince. Isla considered Claude's feelings to be mere obsession, and asked Edith if she thought he loved her. And Edith replied that this is what a person who is in love looks like. Claude looks like he's head over heels in love with Isla, something Isla decided to put aside for the future. Ayla said that she wanted her to know that she had no feelings for the first prince. Edith said that she understood this, but she had not come all this way to discuss such an easy topic, and suddenly Edith warned Ayla to be careful with the emperor. Isla wanted to ask her more about this, but Edith stood up and said that that was all she could say, and now she was leaving. Already in the evening, Ayla lay on her bed and thought that she would soon have to pay a visit to the emperor, and this made her anxious. She wondered why Edith told her this, perhaps because she was the owner of the relic that was written about in the prophecy, or because she was grateful for saving her. But can she trust this word? And what is more important is Claude. If he really loves her, then what should she do in the future? However, every day she is visited by thoughts that she wants to stay next to him, but she decided not to focus on this. And it was at such a moment that Claude knocked on her room. He came in and said that he wanted to talk to her. Then Ayla suggested that they walk together in the garden because she herself was confused in her head, and a walk could help her. Claude said that after Miss Edith's visit, she was constantly in her room. Isla replied that she wanted to put her thoughts in order. He asked if she said something unpleasant. Ayla replied that there was nothing of the kind, and replied that only one phrase bothered her. Ayla said that Edith warned her about the emperor. Claude said that it was probably because the Nevelin family is a supporter of the aristocratic faction, and perhaps she warned her about the emperor in order to lure her to the side of the nobility. But don't bother your head too much with such thoughts. Even if there is evidence, Claude doesn't think that the Nevelin family's information structure is not that good. Yes, she would not have told her to beware of the emperor without having strong evidence in hand. But if she knew earlier that she was from a family of supporters of aristocrats, she would not have to worry. But then why is the prince dating her? Edith belongs to a family representing the interests of the aristocratic faction, and it is a known fact that the two factions are opposed to each other. Therefore, a more suitable match for the prince would be a girl from a family belonging to the imperial faction. Perhaps the reason is that the purpose of the novel was to emphasize the so-called fateful love, which is capable of overcoming any obstacles. It is very unusual that the prince has a friendly relationship with Edith from the noble faction. Apparently, this is real fate. Claude said that because of this, there was a lot of talk. It was said that the prince was going to negotiate with the aristocratic faction through his friendly relationship with Neveline. But of course, because he acted like an idiot, the rumors quickly disappeared. Apparently, he really was playing the fool. Then Ayla asked when they would approximately pay a visit to the imperial palace, and Claude suggested going there tomorrow. Claude asked if her mood had improved. Ayla was surprised and asked if he had really been worried about her all this time. She wrote off why he was worried, and Claude replied that for him, she was the most important person. In this world, nothing matters to him except her. Ayla touched his cheek, and Claude came closer. But when it was time for their first kiss, Claude backed down and apologized for crossing the line. Ayla replied that her soul is now so light when she is next to him, and her mood simply cannot deteriorate. Claude replied that when he is next to her, he forgets about everything in the world, as if all memories and thoughts suddenly leave him. What is this feeling that she neglected during the entire time she spent with him? The desire continues to grow in her heart, and now she knows for sure that she has feelings for Claude. A strong desire to possess, a desire to have all of Claude. It is difficult to ignore this feeling. Claude noticed that her face was red and asked if she had caught a cold. Then he walked Ayla to her room, said goodnight, and left, leaving Ayla alone in her room. Ayla admitted that she was in love with Claude, the man who would organize a rebellion and be responsible for her death. She realized that she no longer wanted to leave him, because she wanted to continue to see Claude's silver hair every day. Because she would like to continue to look into his golden eyes, which seemed like molten bars of gold, she wants to be close to him because she loves him. She would like to be together forever. This is the beginning of her love, as strong as a fever. And that's how she woke up. Ayla could not close her eyes all night because these feelings cannot be easily let go. If she cannot give up her feelings, then as a result she will be left with one option. She will need to win Claude's heart. After all, in any case, her goal is to change the plotline of the novel. Compared to such a difficult goal, the plan to win Claude's heart seems quite feasible. If everything works out, then she will be able to save his life and gain his love. She decided to win his heart at all costs. Ayla called Lena and said that she wanted her to pay special attention to her outfit today. As Ayla asked, Lena worked hard and Ayla looked luxurious. Lena said that she dressed up like that because she was heading to the imperial castle. Ayla replied that this was one of the reasons. Lost in thoughts of him, she completely forgot about the audience with the emperor. This bracelet has been on her hand for several days, so she no longer notices it, and he is the savior to whom she owes her life and the main culprit of her problems. Suddenly there was a knock on her door, and Lena said that it must be the Duke. Then she wished her a good journey, and now it was time to meet Claude. She opened the door and Claude asked if she was ready to go to the imperial palace. Today Ayla is really nervous. When she looks into his eyes, Claude took her hand and kissed it, saying that she looks beautiful. Then they came to the emperor, and Claude said that they welcomed him and wished him a long reign. Ayla said that it was a great honor for them to be here at his invitation. When she first met at the prince's birthday banquet, he showed no interest in her. The emperor said that the duchess's actions last time impressed him very much, and in addition, she turned out to be the owner of the relic. She thanked him, and the emperor said that there was no need for such expressions because she was the heroine of his family, and he would never forget that she saved the life of the prince. If the emperor really ordered the count to deliver information about the duke, but she does not feel any hostility, she even became a heroine. In this case, maybe the count was just lying or the emperor was just pretending. He said that her merit was incredibly important, so she would receive ownership of the emerald mine in Emeltoy. Ayla was very surprised by the kindness of the emperor, and she thanked him for such a generous gift. Did he really want to go further and try to build friendly relations? The emperor said that he had another gift for his wife and asked him to come out. Claude reluctantly came out bowing to him. The butler presented the box and the emperor told her to open it. The necklace made of aquamarine is the same one he presented to the empress. Ayla asked if it was possible to give her what Her Majesty the Empress had. The emperor replied that he would give it to her without regret, and added that he did not have time to properly prepare the gift for her, because she already had the most precious stone. Although his gift is incomparable to Princess Shay's diamond, it is the necklace that the empress wore, so the emperor asked to accept the gift. Ayla was worried that there would be chaos if this got back to the princess and prince, but she still thanked him for the gift. The emperor said that this was a reward from the imperial court for saving his relatives from threats. It turns out he wants to say that he is giving his wife's jewelry to the owner of the relic as payment for saving her son. In addition, if she accepts the gift, then it will be difficult for the ducal family to make an enemy in the ruling family. But perhaps the prince and princess will hate her for this gift. But it's clear from the emperor that he would never listen to her excuses, so she accepted his gift, saying that she would protect him like the apple of her eye. The emperor said that it is possible he doesn't know, but he really likes the precious stone that adorns the necklace. It carries a good meaning. Aquamarine symbolizes eternal youth and happiness, and at the same time it is believed to bring hope and health. Ayla said it symbolized happiness, and the emperor said he hoped the necklace would bring her happiness. Then he asked in a creepy tone if she was going to accept his proposal. He said that he was not laying it out, but was only interested because he wanted to make friends with the owner of the relic, which was mentioned in the prophecy. It turns out that the count was not lying. The emperor really asked for information about her family. He really turned out to be a sinister man. Ayla said that as a member of the ducal family, she would like to be loyal to his imperial majesty. Then she quickly left, and Claude, who was waiting for her, asked how it all went. She said that she did not like his gift because she received the necklace of the late empress. Ayla wanted to say something to Claude, but suddenly the prince shouted her name and Ayla greeted him. The prince asked permission to talk with her a little. Ayla asked how long it would take. The prince replied that it would only take a minute. He said that he had heard that His Majesty had rewarded the courage shown last time. Ayla wondered if he had come to make sure that his father had given her a necklace that belonged to his late mother. But the prince said that he also wanted to repay her for saving his life and showed her the ruby ring. Ayla said that he had already received sufficient reward for his services, but the prince interrupted her by saying that it could be useful. He said that this is an artifact, a very rare and difficult to make magical item. In addition, a person who owns such an item can use the special magical power contained in it. Claude, who had been watching silently until now, asked if he wanted to say that he would give it to his wife. The prince said that it protects the body from poison and physical damage. Such a thing would be useful to their mothers. He added that if poison is detected, the gem will break and magic will be directed into her body, and during a physical attack, the artifact creates a shield. Of course, since she already owns the relic, magical attacks or attacks from monsters. But the ring will be able to protect against physical attacks and poison. Ayla didn't know if his intentions were pure, but the artifact was too useful to give up, and Ayla wanted to test the ring in the palace. Therefore, she thanked him for the gift and asked why he thought that someone would make an attempt on her life. The prince reminded about that dark sorcerer, and besides, there are many who will not leave the owner of the relic alone. In the carriage, Ayla said that when she saw the prince today, it seemed to her that in front of her was a completely different person. Ayla insisted that no matter how much she thought, it seemed to her that the emperor really asked the count to get information about their family. After he left the audience chamber, the emperor tried to test the waters, but she refused. Claude said that he had no doubts about her. Claude said that he assumed that there was such a chance, but he could not even imagine that his assumptions about the emperor would turn out to be true. He asked that the emperor directly asked about her intentions. Ayla replied that he was trying to find out whose side they were on. Ayla was afraid that he would start a riot because of this, but she was determined not to leave Claude under any circumstances, but she still had to tell him about it. The next day, Ayla came to Claude again and he asked what business she came for, and Ayla said that he was working without a break. Besides, he sits in his office all the time, and that's why she missed her. Claude said that he also wanted to see her. She invited him to drink tea, and at the table said that he was very busy. As soon as they returned to the house, he could only be found in his office. Claude said that he was investigating the incident involving the dark sorcerer, but had not yet found any leads. Plus, the emperor is trying to interfere in the affairs of the duchy. Ayla said that neither he nor her father received much information due to her refusal. Claude replied that there are people who are trying to find out something inside the ducal residence. In the original, when Claude was about to lead his army to the imperial palace, but the prince saw through him and struck first. No wonder Claude knew about the spies, but still organized the rebellion. She wondered if there was a reason to take such a risk. Claude asked if she noticed anything strange with the ring. Ayla replied that the magician examined it and said that it was indeed an artifact. Apparently, the prince did not lie. Claude said that she did not like the emperor's gift, but she liked the prince's gift. Ayla replied that artifacts with protective effects can always come in handy. And besides, the gift from the emperor is burdensome. When she returned, she immediately hid it in the chest of drawers and hoped that she could return it to the prince or princess, and Claude said that he was a little upset. Claude said that she seemed to like the gift of the emperor's son more than his, but Ayla immediately rejected this hypothesis. He said that he had no idea that she liked artifacts, and from today, he would give the order to collect a whole bunch of them. Ayla was afraid that he would buy all the jewelry again, as he did last time. So she said that everything was fine. She didn't need many artifacts. It seems her bracelet began to glow again. And she thought that she should visit the temple. And she told Claude this, and finding artifacts is not a difficult task, so Claude will not bother. When they arrived, those same grumpy men happily began to circle around Ayla. Ayla said that she wanted to meet Serena, and she would also need materials about the bracelet. Serena came and, as always, was glad to see Ayla. She thanked her for visiting their temple. She brought materials about the bracelet, and Serena said that they still could not figure out how to remove the bracelet, and she assumed that after the chaos, the bracelet would fall off her hands. Ayla was sad because her head was filled with thoughts about how she and Claude would survive, and now she would also have to think about saving the world. At the very least, they should have provided the ability to take off and put on the bracelet whenever one wanted. Claude handed her one document. It said the same thing that she heard from Serena earlier. Ayla asked what this meant, and Serena asked to read the document further. The owner of the relic is an apostle, the chosen one who, with the help of divine power, will correct the chaos of the world. Ayla said that she didn't even know how to use the power of the relic. Siren replied that she would find out everything because she was chosen. And Siren invited her to pray in a special room before leaving. Maybe the goddess would give her a new revelation. Ayla didn't believe it much, but there was a relic in that place, so maybe she'd find new information. She returned to that same place, and it felt like nothing had changed. Ayla continued to doubt that she would find any clues. And she decided to really pray, and as soon as she sat down and began to pray, she heard that same voice. Opening her eyes, Ayla found herself in a completely different place, and it was this voice that called her before the barrier was destroyed. Then a man appeared in front of her and said that he wanted to talk to her and thought it would be better if he brought her here. Ayla asked who he was, and the guy said that he was the creator of this world. It turned out that he was not a goddess, but a god. She straight up said that he doesn't look anything like his statue, and to be honest, Siren resembles him more. He replied that no one had ever seen his true face, so they depicted him as they imagined. And the Siren child, whom he especially loves, Ayla, realized that the Siren was right, that since childhood she had been gifted with divine power. Ayla asked how she could trust him, and the guy replied that she thought who moved her to this space. Then he called her real name Becky, and it turned out that he was the one who sent her into this world. But Ayla still couldn't believe it, and asked how he knew her name, and he repeated that he called her to this dimension. Siren must have said that she felt it coming from her. It was because he placed her soul into Ayla's body. He also gave her his power so that she could become the owner of the bracelet, and Siren felt it. The divine power of the priests is only part of what he owns. Ayla said that if what was said was true, then why did he bring her here? Why did he make her Ayla? She seemed very angry, and the guy replied that he thought she really liked Claude. Ayla just started screaming that he was the one who destroyed the barrier, because he disappeared when he called her name. But he replied that she did it herself, because she was the chosen one, although he made it so that the bracelet would only reach her. Those who possess dark forces summoned creatures from the demonic realm, creating a schism. He chose her as the one who will close the crack in the world, because he assumed that she would be able to save the world. But such an excuse did not calm Ayla at all, but on the contrary, only made her angrier. Ayla thought that if he wanted her to save the world, then let him say so and not walk around and around. This angered Ayla so much that she wanted to hit him at least once and asked if there was another reason why he called her here. He said that there really was a reason, but while he could not tell her about it, Ayla told him to deal with the dark forces himself. But he replied that he had already spent a lot of effort to stop the chaos, and her call here was one of the links in his plan. And didn't she herself say that she wanted to save Claude? Claude's fate is deeply connected with those who create discord in this world. So if she wants to save him, she must close the crack that has formed here. Ayla shouted how Claude could be connected with dark sorcerers, but suddenly the white aura changed to dark. And he said that apparently it would be difficult to continue their conversation because his strength had weakened. Opening her eyes again, Ayla returned and began screaming that he should have answered her questions first before leaving. She wondered what happened to her original body and how the novel connected to this world. She still had too many questions, but the meeting with Rahas was not useless. She did not learn anything about the summoned monsters and the incident at the banquet and left the prayer room. Claude was already waiting for her and greeted her joyfully, and Ayla thought that she needed to protect her husband from dark sorcerers by all means.